Chapter 2096. 2096 Massacre. 2096 Massacre. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo could not help but feel emotional when they saw Su Zimo release his might and break out of his predicament, killing a few people consecutively with his sound domain secret skill. If this continued, the outcome of this battle would be unpredictable. However, right then, Su Zimo's body swayed and he spat out a mouthful of blood, as though something was amiss. Both of them frowned. Initially, Commander Xiong was stunned by Su Zimo's methods and was momentarily bewildered. He did not dare to advance and even wanted to retreat. However, he was puzzled when he saw Su Zimo vomiting blood. Could it be that this Grade 5 Earth Immortal was severely injured after clashing head-on with the other execution guards in the battle earlier on? That was indeed a possibility. It was truly unusual for a Grade 5 Earth Immortal to release such terrifying strength and methods. There was a high chance that he had used some secret skill to stimulate his potential. Secret skills that could stimulate one's potential would also be accompanied by extremely strong sequelae. Although this person managed to take down a few execution guards head-on, he was severely injured as well. Just as Commander Xiong was pondering, Lin Ming on the other side suddenly reacted and shouted, "Commander Xiong, this person just failed his breakthrough earlier on and his injuries have yet to recover." That's right. Zhuo Zhuxian stood out as well. In addition, this person's Dao heart is damaged. If he attacks consecutively, it will definitely aggravate his Dao heart injuries. Shangguan Qian glared at Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming coldly. Although she did not dare to stand out and help Su Zimo, she would not do the despicable act of kicking someone when they were down. When he heard that, Commander Xiong's eyes lit up and he calmed down. Ha 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 ha. Commander Xiong burst into laughter. "Thief, you sure are bold to dare to kill so many execution guards of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom." "Commander Xiong, we can't give him a chance to catch his breath. Let's kill him together." Because they were isolated from Heaven and Earth Essence Qi, the injuries of the remaining 4 execution guards could not heal yet. However, the 4 of them could determine Su Zimo's location with the help of their spirit consciousnesses. This is bad. Gu Tongyu shook his head. This fellow Taoist's Dao heart is damaged and he's injured. I'm afraid. Qiu Siluo sighed gently as well. The 2 of us are severely injured and are trapped in this black light essence severing formation, so we can't help much, Sai. Kill. Wielding the execution saber, Commander Xiong's blood qi surged as he strode towards Su Zimo. The other 4 execution guards dispersed as well and advanced at the same time, charging towards Su Zimo. Die! Before the 4 of them arrived, a domineering spirit consciousness fluctuation spread out from their glabellas. The 4 execution guards had just sent voice transmissions with their spirit consciousnesses and had already decided to use their spirit consciousness secret skills to join forces to kill Su Zimo's essence spirit. The 4 of them did not want to give Su Zimo any chance to retaliate. This is bad. Gu Tongyo's heart skipped a beat when he sensed the intense spirit consciousness fluctuation on the battlefield. He had been worried about this the entire time. The difference in their cultivation realms was too great. If the execution guards released their essence spirit secret skills, this Grade 5 Earth Immortal would have no chance of winning. 4 essence spirit secret skills were released and arrived instantly. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he raised his head and looked at the 4 of them indifferently. Suddenly, a palm-sized scale floated out from his glabella. It was silent but emitted a shuddering aura. Essence Spirit Secret Skill, Reverse Scale. Fufu, the light of a firefly. An execution guard could not help but sneer when he saw Su Zimo activate his Essence Spirit Secret Skill as well. In his opinion, there was a difference of 3 cultivation realms between them. In a fight between Essence Spirits, he could kill Su Zimo's Essence Spirit with ease while his Essence Spirit could escape unscathed. However, that person stopped before he could finish. His smile froze on his face as well with a dull gaze. The other 3 execution guards paused as well. The 4 essence spirit secret skills of the execution guards collided against the reverse scale. There was not much noise in a fight between essence spirit secret skills. However, cracks appeared in the essence spirits of the 4 execution guards. Before long, the essence spirits of the 4 execution guards were destroyed on the spot. Su Zimo was in seclusion in the cave abode of Astral Sect for a long time. Although his Tao heart was damaged because of Ji Yaoshua's passing and his failed breakthrough, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra that he cultivated became more complete and perfected. This cultivation technique was extremely terrifying when it came to cultivating the essence spirit. Although Su Zimo had not broken through to the grade 6 Earth Immortal realm, his essence spirit realm had already reached the level of a grade 8 Earth Immortal. In other words, the essence spirit realms of both parties were not different. As for Su Zimo's essence spirit, it was formed from the Green Lotus essence spirit and Dragon Phoenix essence spirit synthesis of illumination and nether glow. With the help of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, it was even more condensed and pure. Now, he had even released the reverse scale secret skill. The 4 execution guards could not defend against it at all. Anyone who touched the reverse scale of a dragon would die. Even Commander Xiong might not be able to escape unscathed if his essence spirit secret skill clashed against the reverse scale head-on, let alone the 4 grade 8 Earth Immortal execution guards. Of course, the reverse scale could not withstand the impact of the 4 essence spirit secret skills and dissipated into the void, vanishing. On the other side, Commander Xiong had a terrible expression. There were more than 10 Earth execution guards and 3 commanders. They were considered top-tier experts among Earth Immortals. To think that they were almost completely annihilated by a single grade 5 Earth Immortal. Right now, he was the only one left. If he removed the Black Light Essence Severing Formation and recovered Heaven and Earth Essence Chi, he was absolutely confident that he could kill this grade 5 Earth Immortal with a difference in their cultivation realms. However, once the formation was dispelled, it was equivalent to Gu Tongyu at the side recovering his combat strength as well. He could not defend against the sound of the fallen soul flute at all. Commander Xiong had already closed in and had no way out. He could only fight with all his might. Kill! Commander Xiong roared and channeled his blood chi to its limits. Wielding the execution saber with both hands, he slashed down viciously at Su Zimo's head. Earlier on, he sensed that Su Zimo's essence spirit realm was very high. Therefore, he did not dare to use his essence spirit secret skill. Instead, he chose to fight Su Zimo in melee combat with his powerful blood chi. However, although he did not use his essence spirit secret skill, Su Zimo had no intention of giving up. A golden Sanskrit talisman condensed in Su Zimo's consciousness and flew towards Commander Xiong. The Gautama Dharmic Seal. With the help of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, the might of the Gautama Dharmic Seal was not to be underestimated. If Commander Xiong ignored the essence spirit secret skill, although he could kill Su Zimo, he would not be able to escape death either. Helpless, Commander Xiong could only release his essence spirit secret skill to fight against the Gautama Dharmic Seal head-on. The 2 essence spirit secret skills collided. Su Zimo and Commander Xiong shuddered. In this essence spirit secret skill fight, Commander Xiong had the slight advantage. He was delighted and was about to continue swinging his execution saber to kill Su Zimo. Another beam of light shot out from Su Zimo's glabella with an extremely sharp edge, piercing towards his glabella. The Green Lotus sword burst forth. Chapter 2098. 2098 Silence. 2098 Silence. Not good. This Mo Ling wants to silence me. The same thought crossed the minds of Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming. Right then, Su Zimo had already walked slowly towards the 2 of them expressionlessly. However, both of them were still scared out of their wits. At that moment, the wisest choice for the 2 of them was to turn and escape. However, for some unknown reason, against Su Zimo's gaze, their legs no longer obeyed them. In their eyes, the execution guards was a supreme existence that could not be offended. But now the drunkard before him had killed 13 execution guards. In their eyes, Su Zimo was no longer the crazy and ugly drunkard. Instead, he was more like a cold-blooded and ruthless fiend who killed without batting an eyelid. Both of them were scared out of their wits and shivered. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo had already arrived before Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming, watching the 2 of them with a calm expression. The 2 of them did not dare to meet Su Zimo's gaze and averted it. You guys wanted to see my capabilities earlier on? Su Zimo spoke slowly and said in a seemingly casual manner, I hope I didn't disappoint the 2 of you. Initially, Commander Lu and the others wanted to make use of Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo to kill Zhuo Zhuxian and the others. Zhuo Zhuxian, Lin Ming and Xie Tianfeng pushed Su Zimo out. Indeed, Su Zimo stood out. He started a massacre in an incomparably shocking manner and killed all 13 execution guards. When Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming heard Su Zimo's question, they did not know how to reply. They could only grin dryly with horrified expressions. Fellow Taoist Mo Ling. Zhuo Zhuxian took a deep breath and tried his best to compose himself. I've offended you in the past. Fellow Taoist, please be magnanimous and give me a chance on account of our relationship as fellow sect mates. Why yes. Lin Ming nodded hurriedly and smiled apologetically. I've also made a mistake in the past. Fellow Taoist Mo Ling, please be magnanimous, he. Su Zimo was unmoved and merely looked at the two of them calmly. Beside them, Shangguanqian sighed gently. She was extremely fearful as well. However, she could not bring herself to wag her tail and beg for mercy like Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming. Zhuo Zhuxian continued. Fellow Taoist Mo Ling, don't worry. I can swear that I'll pretend that I've never seen you before and never tell a second person about what happened today. If I break that vow, I'll die a terrible death. He thought to himself that even if he did not tell a second person, he could tell it to a third or a fourth person. That way, it would not be considered as a violation of the vow. Lin Ming was enlightened and hurriedly followed suit, making a vow. Are you done speaking? Su Zimo asked indifferently. Lin Ming nodded instinctively. You can die then. With a backhand slap, Su Zimo slapped the side of Lin Ming's face. Crack, crack, crack. Lin Ming's head spun a few times around his neck before coming to a slow stop. His entire neck was completely shattered. His eyes were widened. Su Zimo's seemingly casual palm strike had already shattered the essence spirit in his consciousness. When Zhuo Zhuxian saw that, he could not help but gulp and clench his fists instinctively. Immediately after, a vicious glint flashed through his eyes. Suddenly, he channeled his blood qi and retreated, circulating his essence spirit to condense a greater divine power. Frost barrier. Zhuo Zhuxian pointed at Su Zimo. An almost transparent frost barrier was formed around Su Zimo, trapping him within. Shangguanqian's heart skipped a beat when she saw that. It was only at that moment that she suddenly realized that the black light essence severing formation had lost its effect and she could clearly sense the surrounding heaven and earth essence qi. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo were not surprised. Although it was convenient to set up such array flags and they were fast, there was a disadvantage. The 49 array flags were equivalent to dermic treasures. If anything happened to the owner of the flags, they would become ownerless and the black light essence severing formation would lose its effect. If one were to carve formation patterns on the ground or in the void bit by bit, although it was extremely troublesome to set up and took a long time, it could be maintained for a long time. Therefore, the moment Commander Xiong died, the black light essence severing formation lost its effect and heaven and earth essence qi recovered. To Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo, this was naturally a good thing for them. However, it was not good for Mo Ling who had just gone on a massacre. The reason why Mo Ling could release such a terrifying killing power was mainly because of the black light essence severing formation. If heaven and earth essence qi was recovered, this person's cultivation realm would only be at grade 5 Earth Immortal after all. The difference between him and Zhuo Zhuxian and the others was too great. Therefore, although Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo sensed the change, they did not remind him because they were worried that Zhuo Zhuxian and the others would sense it and they would put Mo Ling in danger instead. In reality, Lin Ming and Shangguanqian truly did not notice this change. However, Zhuo Zhuxian realized it. He was forced into a corner by Su Zimo and finally overcame the fear in his heart to counterattack. That was the reason for the scene earlier on. Mo Ling, I don't want to be your enemy. Zhuo Zhuxian conjured the frost barrier and trapped Su Zimo within, shouting, but don't force me. I'm a grade 8 Earth Immortal after all and I'm 3 realms above you. Without the black light essence severing formation, you might not be able to win in a life and death battle. To be honest, even after recovering heaven and earth essence qi, Zhuo Zhuxian did not dare to fight Su Zimo. There was a hint of cowardice in his words as he forced himself to put on a calm composure. After all, the scene of Su Zimo killing 13 execution guards in succession earlier on had a huge impact on him. The Zhuo family is one of the 5 major family clans of Solar Luna County. Zhua Zhuxian shouted as he retreated, wanting to intimidate Su Zimo so that he could escape from this place. I even dared to kill the execution guards. Yet, you're trying to scare me with the 5 major family clans of Solar Luna County? Su Zimo sneered and in a flash, disappeared from the barrier conjured by the Frost Divine power. By the time Su Zimo reappeared, he was already behind Zhua Zhuxian. When they saw that, Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo were shocked and their expressions changed. This is teleportation. Qiu Siluo looked at Gu Tongyu beside her in confusion. Gu Tongyu shook his head gently. It shouldn't be teleportation. Teleportation is a supreme divine power that can only be released by heaven immortal experts. This method is more like a secret skill of the dragon race. Pest! Zhua Zhuxian's pupils constricted and he gasped. Vanished. He had been staring at Su Zimo fixedly the entire time, afraid that something might happen. However, Su Zimo suddenly vanished from his line of sight. The next moment, he felt an aura of death descend from behind him. Without hesitation, Zhua Zhuxian pointed to Shangguan who was not far away and hollered, Nether swap. Swoosh. Zhua Zhuxian and Shangguan swapped positions instantly. Chapter 2099. 2099 Old Friends. 2099 Old Friends. It was no wonder why Zhua Zhuxian was a genius of the Zhua family. It was indeed extremely rare for him to be able to react in such a short period of time and release Nether Swap to avoid Su Zimo's killing move after the first flash of the True Dragon 9 flashes. However, Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he disappeared once more in a flash. Zhua Zhuxian had just escaped. Before he could catch her breath, he turned back instinctively and was horrified to discover that Su Zimo had vanished once more. Are you looking for me? A calm voice sounded behind him. He was close by. Bang! The next moment, Zhua Zhuxian felt a sharp pain at the back of his head. An arrow of blood burst forth from his eyes and spilled down slowly. Su Zimo pierced his head with a single finger. His essence spirit was destroyed. Zhua Zhuxian fell limply to the ground with widened eyes. His expression was still filled with fear and his gaze dimmed. He was dead. Even after recovering heaven and earth essence chi, the grade 8 earth immortal, Zhua Zhuxian, could not last 2 rounds. On the other side, Shangguan was swapped into midair by Zhua Zhuxian's nether swap. At that moment, she did not escape. Instead, she descended slowly from midair. She knew that even if she chose to escape, she would not be able to escape. The strength of Mo Ling before her had far surpassed her imagination. Shangguan looked at Su Zimo who was walking over slowly with a conflicted expression. She was the first to notice that this person was unusual. However, she had not expected that this person would be so unusual that it was unbelievable. Before long, Su Zimo arrived before Shangguan. Shangguan sighed internally. She knew very well that although there was no feud between the two of them, there was no way Mo Ling would let her leave after witnessing this scene today. However, she was still puzzled and wanted an answer. You were pretending to be drunk when you joined the sect, right? Shangguan looked at Su Zimo and asked softly. She knew that she would definitely die. Instead of fear, she became calm. Yes. Su Zimo nodded and did not lie. Shangguan thought for a moment and continued. Did something happen for you to fail your breakthrough previously? She had once seen a heartbreaking sadness in Su Zimo's eyes. Even she felt terrible when she saw that sadness. After a long silence, Su Zimo said, Someone very, very important to me has left. Shangguan went silent as well. She did not know how to persuade him about something like that either. In fact, she even felt a hint of envy towards the person who left. Most cultivators were pure and heartless. Even if she died, there would not be many people in this world who would feel sad for her. At the thought of this, Shangguan laughed self-deprecatingly and thought to herself, if I have to die, so be it. Make your move. Shangguan closed her eyes. After a while, she did not feel any pain or killing. She opened her eyes and looked over. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had already left her and was tidying up the battlefield at the side, collecting the storage bags of the many execution guards, Zhua Zhuxian and the others. You can leave. Su Zimo said with his back facing Shangguanqian. Why didn't you kill me? Shangguanqian frowned slightly in confusion. Su Zimo asked instead, why should I kill you? In truth, apart from the fact that he wanted to silence them, there was another reason why he killed Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming. More importantly, it was because the two of them had provoked him repeatedly before and even wanted to kill him. The first time he came out of seclusion, both of them sent cultivators to follow him. The second time he came out of seclusion, when he was receiving the inheritance of the exalted mystic spirit Big Dipper True Sutra, Lin Ming wanted to interrupt him as well. After the inheritance was over, Zhuo Zhuxian even threatened to snatch the cultivation technique. Although Shangguanqian was the first person to notice his abnormality, she had stood up for him countless times during this period of time. While Su Zimo did not express anything, he remembered everything. Although he had changed his appearance, his personality had not changed and he was clear about gratitude and hatred. Zhuo Zhuxian and Lin Ming deserved to be killed. However, Su Zimo would not kill Shangguanqian who had helped him before just to silence her. Furthermore, Shangguanqian did not know his true identity at all. He had the Trinity Auspicious Jade and could change his appearance at any moment. Shangguanqian had a conflicted expression and naturally did not know what Su Zimo was thinking. After a long silence she suddenly said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist. However, I still have to make a vow. I, Shangguanqian, will definitely not reveal anything that I saw today. If I break this vow, the heavens will smite me and my soul will disperse." With that said, Shangguanqian cupped her fists and bowed to Su Zimo before turning to leave, disappearing into the horizon before long. During this period of time, Su Zimo had already tidied up the battlefield. He turned around and walked towards Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. At that moment, Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo felt uneasy as well. That was because the two of them did not know Mo Ling at all and did not know why he would suddenly start a massacre and kill the execution guards. The two of them were not sure if Mo Ling would attack them to silence them. Looking at Su Zimo who was gradually approaching, Gu Tongyu tightened his grip on the fallen soul flute. At that moment, heaven and earth essence chi had already recovered. Although he was injured, with the fallen soul flute around, he could fight Mo Ling. Benefactors, we meet again. Su Zimo came before Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo and bowed. At that moment, Gu Tongyu and Su Zimo were stunned. Benefactors. With a single thought from Su Zimo, his appearance gradually changed and his figure returned to normal. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a refined man with a scholarly aura. You! Gu Tongyu looked at Su Zimo with a confused expression, still unable to recognize him. He felt that the person before him looked familiar, as though he had seen him somewhere before. However, he could not recall where. Dragon Abyss Star. Su Zimo said. When Qiu Siluo heard those words, a thought flashed through her mind and she came to a realization. I remember now. You're that black immortal. Gu Tongyu gradually recalled as well. More than 2,000 years ago, the two of them visited a secret ground on the Dragon Abyss Star. It was also there that the two of them obtained the soul-reaping Zither and the fallen soul flute. Before entering the secret ground, they encountered an Earth Immortal who wanted to kill another Black Immortal because of a dermic treasure. The two of them could not take it lying down and helped to save the Black Immortal. This was an extremely ordinary matter for the two of them, and neither of them took it to heart. To think that they would meet that Black Immortal again today. What surprised Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo even more was that the former Black Immortal had already grown to such a terrifying extent. It had only been more than 2,000 years and even with their talent, they had only advanced a single cultivation realm. This Black Immortal had already cultivated to become a Grade 5 Earth Immortal. Furthermore, his combat strength was so terrifying that both of them felt wary. Chapter 2100, 2100 Reminiscence. 2100 Reminiscence. I haven't seen you for more than 2,000 years but you've grown so quickly. Impressive. Recognizing Su Zimo's identity, Gu Tongyu let down his guard as well and could not help but praise. Qiu Siluo smiled. Although we saved you before, you saved us earlier on as well. Don't call us your benefactors, that will make us seem distant. That's right. Gu Tongyu nodded slightly and asked again, How should I address you, fellow Taoist? I'm Su Zimo. Su Zimo did not hide his identity against Gu Tongyu and Su Zimo. Gu Tongyu's expression changed. As though he recalled something, he asked, all these years, a prince of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom has been hunting down somebody. That's me. Su Zimo nodded. Gu Tongyu said, Brother Su, your disguise technique is truly impressive and flawless. It's no wonder why you could hide for more than 2,000 years against the pursuit of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. However, because you saved us and exposed your identity, I'm afraid you can't stay in Astral Sect anymore. Xueqi looked guilty. Su Zimo shook his head. Even without this matter, I was prepared to leave. Previously, he was in a hurry to raise his cultivation realm in seclusion. After coming out of seclusion this time round, he did not intend to continue staying in the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. He had to find an opportunity to leave this place. In the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, he had offended a prince and could be hunted down at any moment. The only way to resolve the current situation was to leave the territory ruled by the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. If he wanted to break out of the situation, the best way was to look for protection, a faction that could go against the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. There's only hope after leaving the great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Gu Tongyu said in a deep voice as well. The situation they were facing was not much different from Su Zimo. Furthermore, the person they offended was even stronger and had a higher status than Prince Yuanzhua. What are your plans from now on? Su Zimo asked. Gu Tongyu and Xueqi exchanged glances and the melancholy in their eyes deepened as they sighed gently. The two of us have offended Zither Immortal Meng Yao. We probably can't even stay in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain anymore. Is Meng Yao that terrifying? Su Zimo asked with a frown. Xueqi explained, if Meng Yao was only a princess of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, she wouldn't have such an impact. However, she's also a legacy disciple of Flying Immortal Sect. There aren't many legacy disciples in each of the 4 immortal sections. One can only be conferred the title of a legacy disciple after their cultivation reaches the perfected 1 realm and they become perfected immortals. The legacy disciples of the 4 immortal sects have noble statuses even in the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain, let alone the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Furthermore, Meng Yao is one of the 4 great fairies. In the entire Divine Firmament Immortal Domain and even the experts of the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain, it's their honor to be able to listen to the sound of Meng Yao's Zither. In the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain, the Zither Immortal's music is even described to be a heavenly sound that's priceless. None of the top factions in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain will offend Zither Immortal Meng Yao for the 2 of us. Su Zimo was silent. In that case, the situation Gu Tongyu and Xueqi were facing was even worse than his. We might head to other immortal domains. At that point, Gu Tongyu paused for a moment before saying, if we truly have no way out, we can only head to the Fiend Domain. Fiend Domain. Su Zimo could not help but think of the Thunder Emperor who had already headed to the Fiend Domain. He did not know how the Thunder Emperor was and if his injuries had healed. Brother Su, I heard you mention that your Dao heart was damaged because someone very important to you has left. Suddenly, Gu Tongyu asked. That's right. Su Zimo sighed sadly. He recalled Ji Yaoshue's voice and expression and was in a daze. Although many things happened today, it had only been less than a day since Ji Yaoshue passed away. Su Zimo could not break free from that dejected mood. His chest felt stuffy and he felt terrible, but he had nowhere to vent it. The more he was like this, the more difficult it was for his Dao heart to heal. If he could not get out of this predicament, there was a high chance that he would form a vicious cycle and sink into it. Gu Tongyu and Xueqi exchanged glances and nodded slightly. Xueqi placed the soul-reaping Zither on her knees and plucked the strings gently with her jade-like fingers, letting out a sound like flowing water. It was like water droplets dripping or meteors streaking through the night sky, vast and quirky. Instantly, Su Zimo seemed to have passed through a water barrier and ripples appeared, as though he had returned to the past. Gu Tongyu picked up the fallen soul flute and placed it by his lips. A mellow sound of sobbing could be heard. Su Zimo caught sight of Ji Yaoshue again. That unforgettable woman. From their first encounter to the capital of Great Zhou, everything seemed to be the same. However, in this memory, Su Zimo and Ji Yaoshue became Dao companions and accompanied one another, leaving behind countless happy times. Su Zimo did not ascend and merely accompanied Ji Yaoxue to grow old. Eventually, the two of them fell asleep in each other's embrace and were buried together. The sound of the zither and flute gradually faded until it was silent. By the time Su Zimo woke up, his face was already covered in tears. Upon receiving the news of Ji Yaoxue's departure, he had nowhere to vent and kept it in his heart. Both Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo could tell that Su Zimo was in an extremely bad mental state. There was a high chance that he would suffer qi deviation if he cultivated in the future, let alone recover his Dao heart. The two of them were proficient in the Dao of music and played the zither and flute together, bringing Su Zimo into a memory. Su Zimo's emotions rose and fell along with the sound of the zither and flute, venting out in this memory and obtaining freedom. By the time Su Zimo woke up, the injuries on his Dao heart had already healed. The heaven and earth essence qi in his body surged continuously and washed through his body like a tsunami. The inheritance obtained by Astral Sect was only of use at this moment. When Su Zimo received the inheritance, the green lotus true body endured the starlight of 2 star regions. The starlight came from the vast stars. Every single starlight contained rich and pure heaven and earth essence qi. Su Zimo's acceptance of the inheritance also meant that he was absorbing the heaven and earth essence qi into his body. However, his Dao heart was damaged and prevented him from breaking through, causing the heaven and earth essence qi to accumulate in his body. Now that his Dao heart had recovered, the accumulated heaven and earth essence qi surged rapidly as well. Su Zimo's cultivation realm broke through once more. Grade 6 Earth Immortal. After breaking through to the level 6 Earth Essence realm, the heaven and earth essence qi in his body was still extremely vast. If he refined all the heaven and earth essence qi, he could even reach the peak of a grade 6 Earth Immortal. However, this was not a suitable place for cultivation. Su Zimo suppressed the essence qi in his body for the time being and wiped away the tears on his face. He bowed deeply to Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. There were no words that could express his gratitude. He had already engraved this favor in his heart. Qiu Siluo smiled gently. Su Zimo lamented, "I've never heard the sound of the Zither Immortal before. However, I think that she can only be worthy of the title of the Zither Immortal if her Zither sound can be compared to yours. How can I compare to the Zither Immortal?" Qiu Siluo smiled. "What was the name of that song earlier on?" Su Zimo asked again. "Reminiscence." Qiu Siluo said. "Reminiscence, reminiscence." Su Zimo murmured softly. Chapter 2101 2101 Test 2101 Test. Brother Su, 13 execution guards have died. The great Jin Immortal Kingdom will definitely not let this go. We can't linger here. Let's part ways here. Gu Tongyu said. In that short period of time, their injuries healed significantly and they could move freely. Since all of us want to leave the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, why don't we travel together so that we can take care of one another? Qiu Siluo suggested. Gu Tongyu shook his head gently. Brother Su, I had the same thought but decided against it. We provoked Zither Immortal Meng Yao, a perfected immortal expert. Now that her pursuit failed this time round, there's a high chance she'll send out the Heaven Execution Guards next time or even come out personally. You'll be implicated instead if you travel with us. Qiu Siluo nodded as well. That's right. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo suddenly said, Guys, the Heaven Execution Guard commanders have a blood guidance secret skill that can determine your location through the blood that you've spilled. It's fine. Gu Tongyu waved it off. The fallen soul flute and the soul-reaping zither in our hands can sever the connection to blood guidance. That's good. Su Zimo was finally relieved. Suddenly, Gu Tongyu said, Brother Su, take this fallen soul flute with you. A look of reluctance flashed through Gu Tongyu's eyes but he still handed the fallen soul flute over. Su Zimo was touched. He knew that Gu Tongyu was worried that he would be found by the blood guidance secret skill and captured by the execution guards. It was self-evident how important the fallen soul flute was to Gu Tongyu. Treasures like the fallen soul flute and the soul-reaping zither had even alarmed Zither Immortal Meng Yao. It was clear how precious those two treasures were. But now, Gu Tongyu wanted to hand over the fallen soul flute without hesitation because he was worried about Su Zimo's safety. Su Zimo shook his head. Brother Gu, don't worry. I have something on me as well such that the blood guidance secret skill of the Heaven Execution Guards can't sense me. This was the Thunder Jade Pendant given to him by the Thunder Emperor. It was because of this Jade Pendant and the Trinity Auspicious Jade that Su Zimo was able to remain dormant in Astral Sect for more than 2,000 years. Gu Tongyu said in a deep voice, "All right, Brother Su. Let's bid farewell here. If we're lucky enough to survive, we'll meet again if we're fated. We'll meet again if fate allows it." Su Zimo bid farewell with cupped fists as well. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo soared into the air and left towards the west. Su Zimo waved his hand and put away all 49 array flags. Those array flags were now ownerless. If they could be refined and used properly, they would be a powerful method of victory. Although he had the Thunder Jade Pendant, out of caution, Su Zimo still condensed the Kacharati Dao fire and burned the corpses on the ground. The execution guards were already dead. Without essence chi or essence spirits, the Kacharati Dao fire alone was enough to burn the corpses clean. Flames surged into the skies. Just as Su Zimo was about to leave, a streak of light sped over from afar at an astonishing speed. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. At that moment, it was already too late for him to activate the Trinity Auspicious Jade to change his appearance. What was even more frightening was that the pressure released by the cultivator covered the skies and was far beyond what he could withstand. A Heaven Immortal expert. Furthermore, it was a high-level Heaven Immortal expert. He had almost no means of defending against a Heaven Immortal expert. The 3 awakened sacred souls in the Hell Suppression Tripod had already lost their strength and fell asleep because of the consecutive battles. If a Heaven Immortal expert were to attack him, he would definitely die. Su Zimo's expression changed when he saw who it was. That cultivator was Astral Rain, the Sect Master of Astral Sect. In the blink of an eye, Astral Rain arrived and was slightly stunned when he saw Su Zimo. He was even more shocked when he saw the fire at the side. At that moment, the flames were raging and had yet to incinerate the many corpses. One could still vaguely make out their figures. Chapter 2102. 2102 Immortal Sect Selection. 2102 Immortal Sect Selection. Sigh. After a long silence, Astral Rain finally sighed. Leave. Leave the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom as soon as possible. Senior, why are you? Su Zimo was puzzled and could not understand Astral Rain's thoughts. The two of them did not have any relationship. If Astral Rain captured him, he would be able to exchange for a large number of treasures. Even without handing him over, he could force out the exalted mystic spirit Big Dipper True Sutra. Astral Rain seemed to have read Su Zimo's mind. When I saw that you were taken away by Commander Lu, I guessed that he was after the inheritance you just obtained. Although I'm the sect master and don't want you to meet with such a calamity, I don't dare to offend the execution guards either. Astral Rain did not conceal his fear towards the execution guards and the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. However, I could not calm down after returning to my cave abode. Astral Rain said, after so many years, the inheritance of Astral Sect has finally appeared in this generation. Am I going to let the execution guards snatch it away just like that? As the sect master of Astral Sect, am I going to watch the successor die prematurely because of this? At that point, Astral Rain laughed self-deprecatingly. I came this time round with the intention of risking my life to kill these execution guards and save you. To think that they're already dead. Although Astral Rain did not say it explicitly, one could imagine how difficult it was for him to make that decision. Attacking the execution guards was equivalent to taking on a massive existence like the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. If you're just Su Zimo, I won't let you off. Astral Rain said, however, you're Mo Ling and have received the inheritance of Astral Sect. I hope that this inheritance can shine once more in your hands. His tone was sincere and there was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Even in the upper world, not everyone was evil and would bully the weak. Not everyone was greedy and cold-blooded. Astral Rain knew in his heart that since this inheritance chose Su Zimo, it meant that he was the most suitable candidate. Suddenly, he took out a talisman from his storage bag and handed it to Su Zimo. This is a major transference talisman. It can teleport you directly to a city at the border of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, Seven Feather City. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. The territory of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom was vast and there were 16 counties and more than 1,000 cities. Given Su Zimo's cultivation, even if he traveled day and night, it would take him months to cross a county, let alone the entire Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. It was clear how precious that talisman was. Tear this talisman apart and descend at the border. After leaving Seven Feather City, it's equivalent to breaking free from the pursuit of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Pausing for a moment, Astral Rain continued, however, leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom doesn't mean that it's safe. In Divine Firmament Mainland, only half of the territory controlled by the 3 Immortal Kingdoms is occupied. Most of the remaining half is ownerless and contains all sorts of powerful living beings that are filled with danger and unknowns. Some of the spirit grounds are occupied by powerful itinerant cultivators, some of the mountain ranges are occupied by terrifying demon beasts, some of the blessed lands are under the jurisdiction of immortal sects. There are countless similar places. If you enter by mistake, your life will be in danger at any moment. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and asked, "How can I leave the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain after leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom?" Astral Rain said, "After leaving the city, head south. If nothing goes wrong, given your cultivation, it might take you dozens of years to cross more than half of Divine Firmament Mainland's territory to reach the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain." Dozens of years. Su Zimo frowned slightly. That time estimate was under the most ideal conditions. According to Astral Rain, he had to experience countless dangers crossing those ownerless lands where various factions and powerful living beings resided. If anything were to happen during this period of time, it would be normal for him to take hundreds or even thousands of years. Isn't there any teleportation method? Su Zimo asked with a frown. Yes. Astral Rain said, however, the teleportation hall is located in the capitals of the 3 Immortal Kingdoms, the 4 Immortal Sects and Divine Firmament City. Without a special status, you can dream about entering the capitals of the 3 Immortal Kingdoms or the 4 Immortal Sections. As for Divine Firmament City, that's the territory of the Divine Firmament Immortal Emperor with countless experts living in seclusion. Even if you possess myriad transformations, you'll definitely reveal flaws there. Su Zimo shook his head. The path of using a teleportation formation was even more unrealistic. Where's the Green Firmament Immortal Domain? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he asked. The Thunder Emperor had once told him that the human emperor, Lin Zhan, was in the Green Firmament Immortal Domain right now and controlled an immortal kingdom. The Green Firmament Immortal Domain is even further. Astral Rain shook his head. The south of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain is the Jade Firmament Immortal Domain. Further south is the Elixir Firmament Immortal Domain and further south is the Green Firmament Immortal Domain. That's 2 immortal domains in the middle and it's even further. Su Zimo shook his head. Given his current capabilities, there was no way he could reach the Green Firmament Immortal Domain. Astral Rain thought for a moment and suddenly said, "Actually, if you can join one of the 4 immortal sects, you might be able to resolve this calamity." 4 immortal sects. Su Zimo murmured softly. Back on the Dragon Abyss Star, he had come into contact with cultivators of the 4 immortal sections. The 4 immortal sects of Divine Firmament Mainland were the Mountain Sea Immortal Sect, Imperial Wind Temple, Heaven and Earth Academy and Flying Immortal Sect. Astral Rain said in a deep voice, "In the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, the 4 immortal sects are the only factions that can fight against the 3 immortal kingdoms. Although they are sects, their foundations are terrifying and are definitely not weaker than an immortal kingdom. If I can join one of the 4 immortal sects, will I be able to escape the threat of Prince Yuan Zhua?" Su Zimo asked again. Astral Rain nodded and said, "More than 2,000 years ago, because of Feng Cantian, Prince Yuan's status among the many princes and princesses of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom plummeted. The current prince and county governor of Green Cloud County have changed as well. Although you're being hunted by him, as long as you leave the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom and join the 4 immortal sects, no matter how arrogant Yuan Zhua is, he won't dare to capture anyone from the 4 immortal sects." However, Astral Rain wanted to speak but stopped. "However?" Su Zimo asked. Astral Rain hesitated for a moment. "Given your current cultivation, it's probably unrealistic for you to join the 4 immortal sections. Let's forget about this matter." "Why?" Su Zimo frowned and asked, "What are the conditions required to join the 4 immortal sects?" Every 100 years, the 4 immortal sects will hold an immortal sect selection in the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. The most talented and powerful Earth Immortals of Divine Firmament Mainland will be gathered. Astral Rain said, the entire selection will last for a year and only 100 Earth Immortals will be invited to join the 4 immortal sects in the end. There's a restriction on one's cultivation realm in the immortal sect selection. Su Zimo asked. Not really, as long as you're an Earth Immortal. When Astral Rain saw the corpses of the execution guards strewn all over the ground, he instinctively thought that these people had died in the hands of the people hunted down by the execution guards. He had not thought that Su Zimo had anything to do with their deaths. Chapter 2103. 2103 Leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. 2103 Leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. He had doubts about whether there was anything wrong with the teleportation talisman as well. However, given Astral Rain's cultivation realm, there was truly no need for him to go through so much trouble to deal with Su Zimo. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo tore the teleportation talisman apart. The shards of the talisman spun continuously and a dark spatial tunnel appeared in midair. Su Zimo walked in. When traveling through the spatial tunnel, one could not sense the passage of space and time or the weight of their bodies. All their senses would be greatly weakened. An unknown period of time passed. After a few breaths, Su Zimo's eyes lit up and he felt his body lighten as he fell rapidly from midair. He controlled his body hurriedly and released his spirit consciousness, on guard. There was no danger in the surroundings and it was empty. He had already left the spatial tunnel. In the distant horizon, a gigantic ancient city could be vaguely seen. Speeding in the direction of the ancient city, Su Zimo recognized before long that there were 3 words written on the ancient city. 7 Feather City. 7 Feather City was an ancient city at the southern border of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. This teleportation talisman had indeed teleported Su Zimo to the borders of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. As long as he passed through this ancient city, he would leave the territory of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. At that time, with the help of the Trinity Auspicious Jade, he would be able to roam freely. Su Zimo disguised himself as a sickly young cultivator. His face was yellow and his lips were pale without any color. He did not encounter any obstacles when he entered 7 Feather City. When he left 7 Feather City, many city guards checked on him many times and asked him some questions. Unlike other cities, the ancient cities at the borders were heavily guarded. Su Zimo had long prepared for answers and managed to leave the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom safely. After speeding for a while, Su Zimo stopped and turned around. He looked deeply in the direction of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom with a cold gaze. Thereafter, he followed the map and sprinted in the direction of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. 13 execution guards died in Solar Luna County, incurring the wrath of the county governor. At the same time, Prince Yuanzhua, who was in Solar Luna County, received the news as well. He brought a commander of the execution guards, Lone Star, and a group of Earth execution guards to the location of the incident. Back then, Prince Yuanzhua was shocked by the heir of King Jin and was scared out of his wits. When the heir of King Jin wanted him to get rid of all the remnant knight forces in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, there was no way he could disobey. Because of Feng Cantian's escape, King Jin was enraged and removed his authority in Green Cloud County as well as perfected Immortal Jing Yu's Green Cloud County governor position. Over the years, apart from chasing after Su Zimo, Prince Yuanzhua spent most of his time traveling around the territory of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom to search for and exterminate the survivors of Remnant Knight. He did not dare to relax at all with the warning of the heir of King Jin. The days of peace and comfort were long gone. Right now, Prince Yuanzhua was exhausted from the workload. Among the many princes and princesses, his status was already ranked below average. More importantly, the true body that he had tirelessly and painstakingly condensed was crippled and the prime body was implicated at the critical juncture of breaking through to the perfected one realm. Without a huge opportunity, he might never be able to become a perfected immortal. With a single mistake, he fell from the clouds to the bottom of the valley. Everything that happened after that, the jade talisman was snatched away and he was injured by the heir of King Jin. Everything was because of a single person. Su Zimo. Chapter 2104. 2104 Emergence of the Zither Immortals. 2104 Emergence of the Zither Immortal. Solar Luna County. By the time Prince Yuanzhua arrived with the commander of the execution guards, Lone Star, and a group of Earth execution guards, many cultivators were already gathered at the scene. Apart from some execution guards, there were also immortal soldiers guarding the great Jin Immortal Kingdom that sealed the vicinity. The county governor of Solar Luna County was also here. Greetings, Your Highness. When the Solar Luna County governor saw Prince Yuanzhua arrive, he cupped his fists and greeted. Although Prince Yuanzhua's status had decreased over the years and he had lost the rule of Green Cloud County, he still had the bloodline of King Jin. The county governor of Solar Luna County did not dare to be negligent and retained the most basic respect for him. Of course, Prince Yuanzhua could not command the county governor of Solar Luna County either. What happened? Prince Yuanzhua entered the center and swept his gaze across some traces of the battlefield, asking with a frown. There was nothing left on the battlefield except piles of ashes. In the ashes, there were even a few fragments of the black gold feather armor that had not been completely incinerated. There were almost no valuable clues. 13 Earth execution guards died, including 3 commanders. The county governor of Solar Luna County said in a deep voice, according to the information I received, these Earth execution guards should have been ordered by Princess Meng Yao to hunt down a man and woman. However, all of those execution guards were annihilated here. Right then, an immortal light sped over from afar and arrived before them in the blink of an eye, emitting a tremendous might. It was a woman. She was tall and wore plain blue palace robes. Her face was fair and flawless. Her black hair was tied into a bun and she had an extraordinary aura. Many cultivators present were stunned when they saw the woman, as though they had lost their souls. However, the woman exuded a cold and extremely dangerous aura that prevented strangers from approaching, causing many cultivators to sober up right away. What are you guys looking at? Kneel down and greet Princess Meng Yao. The county governor of Solar Luna County hollered and swept his gaze across the surrounding immortal soldier guards. The guards of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom usually did not have the chance to see the true appearance of Zither Immortal Meng Yao. Now that they saw her, they were deeply attracted to her peerless beauty and could not extricate themselves. Many execution guards reacted right away and knelt down to greet. Most of the surrounding guards snapped out of their stupor after being reminded by the county governor of Solar Luna County. They lowered their heads hurriedly and knelt on the ground. There were also dozens of guards who were still motionless, looking at Meng Yao in a daze. This was Princess Meng Yao, one of the 4 great fairies, the Zither Immortal Meng Yao. Notwithstanding the sound of Fairy Meng Yao's zither, that face alone was enough to captivate them. The 4 fairies had been famous for many years. All of them had different personalities and unique characteristics. However, the faces of the 4 fairies could be said to be the best in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain. Even in the 9 Firmament Immortal domain, they were top-tier beauties. Otherwise, they would not have been qualified to be called the 4 great fairies. Qin Shuang, it's time to discipline your guards. Meng Yao said slowly and coldly. You are right, Princess Meng Yao. When we go back, I'll punish the dozens of guards severely and let them remember today's lesson. The county governor of Solar Luna County said hurriedly. Meng Yao said indifferently, there's no need to go back. I'll discipline these people for you today. The moment she said that, Meng Yao extended her slender fingers and flicked the void. Clang! Suddenly, the sound of a zither sounded in midair. The eyes of the dozens of guards exploded and blood spurted out. Ah! The dozens of guards let out tragic cries. Right from the beginning, Meng Yao did not even look at them. She could not be bothered to look at them. On account that you guys are guards of the great Jin Immortal Kingdom, I'm giving you a small punishment by blinding your eyes. Although Meng Yao's words were filled with killing intent, they seemed to have a magical power and her voice was indescribably pleasant. The dozens of guards were blinded and endured the pain. However, strange and infatuated smiles appeared on their faces, as though they were extremely satisfied and excited. It's worth it even if I have to go blind to be able to see Fairy Meng Yao's face in this lifetime. I no longer have any regrets in my life after hearing Fairy Meng Yao speak to me. The dozens of guards merely took a single look at Meng Yao and were subdued. Even if they were blinded, they did not have any resentment. When she heard that, Fairy Meng Yao was not enraged. Instead, her beautiful eyes seemed to smile. She loved the feeling of others bowing down to her. Sister Meng Yao, you've really gotten prettier after so many years. Prince Yuanzhua hurried forward and said with a smile, I couldn't even recognize you right away, thinking that a beautiful fairy had descended. Meng Yao was indeed worthy of those praises. However, Prince Yuanzhua's words were more or less pandering and flattering. Even if Meng Yao could sense it, she would not expose him. She enjoyed the feeling of being praised and admired by everyone. She was confident. She was deserving of any and every praise out there. Yuanzhua, it's been a long time. Princess Meng Yao nodded slightly. The two of them were from different mothers and did not have a deep relationship. However, no matter what, both of them had the bloodline of King Jin flowing through their bodies. Meng Yao's reply to Prince Yuan's was served as a greeting. Any clues? Meng Yao turned to look at the county governor of Solar Luna County, and asked in a deep voice. This place was burned to ashes by a fire. I haven't gained anything yet. The county governor of Solar Luna County shook his head. Although Princess Meng Yao did not control any territory in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, apart from the heir of King Jin, she was second among the many descendants of King Jin. It was not only because Princess Meng Yao was a legacy disciple of Flying Immortal Sect and was strong in combat, but also because she was the Zither Immortal. The Zither Immortal's influence was extremely great and was even above the heir of King Jin. Therefore, Princess Meng Yao could even command all the county governors of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Sister Meng Yao, let Lone Star try using the Blood Guidance secret skill. Prince Yuanzhua stood out hurriedly and made a suggestion. Lone Star did not dare to hesitate and channeled his secret skill hurriedly, attempting to gather the blood in the area to sense the direction. However, a long time later, Lone Star dispersed his dermic formulation and shook his head with a bitter smile. No, I can't sense it. It's as though it's blocked by some power. Meng Yao pondered for a moment. It must be because of those two treasures. The soul-reaping Zither and the fallen soul flute were two ferocious weapons of the ancient era that could isolate the detection of blood guidance. Humph. Meng Yao sneered and thought to herself, I'll come out personally this time round and catch the two of you ants. At that thought, she sped into the distance. Before long, her voice sounded. Get all the Heaven Execution Guards of Solar Luna County out and search for those two with all your might. Understood. The county governor of Solar Luna County bowed and replied. It was clear how much Meng Yao valued this matter by using the Heaven Execution Guards of a county to search for two Earth Immortals. Prince Yuanzhua raised his brow slightly and looked at Lone Star, saying softly, Let's go too. We can't interfere in this matter. Yes. Lone Star replied. I heard that experts of the four immortal sects once joined forces and used this terrain to set up a sealed formation. The water barrier below can reflect the situation in the valley at any moment. The Black Immortal explained as he pointed to the valley formed by Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. How many Earth Immortals are taking part in the Immortal Sect selection this time round? Su Zimo asked. The Black Immortal said, before the selection began, the four immortal sects announced a total of 180,451 people. So many! Su Zimo was secretly speechless. Those participating in the Immortal Sect selection were not ordinary Earth Immortals. Those who dared to take part in the Immortal Sect selection were all top-tier Earth Immortal experts, and the weakest were Grade 7 Earth Immortals. The fact that 180,000 top Earth Immortals were gathered here was proof of how attractive the four immortal sects were to many cultivators. What was even more cruel was that only 100 of the 180,000 top Earth Immortals would be selected in the end. The competition was way too intense. The fact that they could take part in the Immortal Sect selection meant that they had already surpassed most Earth Immortals. Even in this group, only 100 of the most outstanding Earth Immortals were selected to join the four immortal sects. Su Zimo glared at a pair of cultivators fighting in the water barrier below. One of them was defeated and was severely injured. Just as he was about to die in the other party's hands, the person suddenly took out a golden badge. Immediately after, the golden badge shone with a golden light, forming a golden barrier that protected the person and blocked all the attacks of the cultivator opposite him. Thereafter, a vortex appeared above the heads of the two people. It dragged the severely injured cultivator outside but left the golden badge in his hands in the valley. Before entering the vortex, the storage bag on the person's waist suddenly exploded and dozens of identical golden badges appeared. The cultivator on the other end waved his hand and put away the dozens of badges with a delighted expression. The cultivator that was taken away by Vortex was thrown out of the battlefield and landed outside Coiling Dragon Mountain Range with a sorry expression. "What's that golden badge?" Zimo asked. "That's the Coiling Dragon badge issued by the 4 Immortal sections. Every Earth Immortal participating in the Immortal Sect selection has one." The Black Immortal said, "If you truly can't defeat your enemy in the valley below or encounter a life-and-death crisis, inject your essence chi into the Coiling Dragon badge and activate the golden barrier. Your life will then be saved. Of course, that also means failure. You will be taken away from the battlefield and leave your Coiling Dragon badge in the valley." Pausing for a moment, the Black Immortal said, "Right, there's one more thing. The Immortal Sect selection will last for a year. No matter how many people are left on the battlefield in the end, the 100 people who obtain the most Coiling Dragon badges will be the final victors." Zimo nodded slightly. That way, it could avoid the situation where cultivators hid passively and avoided challenges until the end. Zimo thought of something else. There was a high chance that the rules of Absolute Thunder City's 10 Absolute Hell were copied from the Immortal Sect selection, and the two were similar. However, the 10 Absolute Hell was in a killing mode and there was no other way out. At the very least, the Immortal Sect selection left a chance of survival for the Earth Immortals who entered the battlefield. As long as one knew how to give up and activated the Coiling Dragon badge at a critical juncture, they would definitely not die. Zimo thought of an extremely critical matter and suddenly asked, "How long more before the Immortal Sect selection ends?" "There's only a month left." The Black Immortal pointed to the valley. There were originally more than 180,000 Earth Immortal experts. After more than half a year of competition, there are only slightly more than 1,000 left on the battlefield. It'll end soon. A month. Zimo's gaze was deep as he looked at the valley below and murmured, "That's enough time." Chapter 2106. 2106 Princess Scarlet Rainbow. 2106 Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Actually, Zimo was in no hurry to take part in the Immortal Sect selection this time round. As long as he cultivated in peace and absorbed and refined all the heaven and earth essence chi in his body before entering seclusion for a period of time, he might even have a chance to break through to become a grade 7 Earth Immortal. At that time, he would have a greater chance and advantage if he participated in the Immortal Sect selection. However, even for the next Immortal Sect selection, he would have to wait another 100 years. Although 100 years seemed short, there were many unpredictable changes that could happen. Furthermore, for some unknown reason, Zimo had always felt uneasy. Perhaps it was the pressure from the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, the threat of King Yunyu or some other unimaginable danger. Zimo wanted to get out of his current predicament as soon as possible. For others, a month was extremely pressing. However, it was enough for him. With more than 180,000 Earth Immortal experts taking part in the Immortal Sect selection, it meant that there were an equivalent number of Coiling Dragon badges in the valley. If Zimo could obtain around 1,800 Coiling Dragon badges, he would be able to get into the top 100 to win. Ah! Hurry, look! Princess Scarlet Rainbow won. Princess Scarlet Rainbow defeated another person and obtained quite a number of Coiling Dragon badges. She should have more than 3,000 badges in total. A series of exclamations sounded from the side. Princess Scarlet Rainbow? Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Right now, he was a little sensitive when he heard about cultivators with titles of princes and princesses. Which immortal kingdom is Princess Scarlet Rainbow from? She's also here for the Immortal Sect selection? Zimo asked softly. Princess Scarlet Rainbow is from the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom. The Black Immortal pointed at a young girl on the water barrier with a look of admiration. The girl had a high ponytail and wore a red martial arts outfit. Her waist was slender and she had a ribbon tied around it. She wore red cloud boots and looked extremely heroic. Dozens of blood-red flying swords circled around the girl. Their sword chi surged into the skies and they were extremely sharp. No one dared to approach them. The Black Immortal paused for a moment before saying, "Over the years, some of the princes and princesses of the various immortal kingdoms will choose to take part in the Immortal Sect selection as well, hoping to join the 4 immortal sects and learn some dermic daos that are different from their own country." Princess Meng Yao was such a cultivator. Of course, in Zimo's opinion, Apart from what this person said about learning different dermic daos, there should be another reason why the princes and princesses of the various immortal kingdoms chose to join the 4 immortal sections. It was to use the princes and princesses as a bridge to establish a connection with the 4 immortal sects lest there were too many conflicts. The top factions of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain were way too massive and intertwined. They would try their best to control themselves and not cause too many conflicts. Of course, when he heard that, Su Zimo's confidence in the 4 immortal sects increased. Even as princes and princesses, there were no shortcuts to joining the 4 immortal sects. They had to take part in the immortal sect selection. That alone was enough to prove that the 4 immortal sects were indeed existences that could fight against the 3 immortal kingdoms. Su Zimo's gaze shifted to the 2 factions with many cultivators in unison and uniform attire. Su Zimo nodded slightly and looked at the other side. The attire of the army in this camp was different from the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. If he was not wrong, it should be the Zishen Immortal Kingdom of the 3 immortal kingdoms. The Black Immortal said, apart from Princess Scarlet Rainbow, a prince of the Zishen Immortal Kingdom is also extremely strong and can be called a monster incarnate. He killed everyone in this valley and has yet to meet his match. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he asked, Prince Yun Ting? And no. The Black Immortal waved it off repeatedly. Prince Yun Ting is way too proud. He doesn't care to take part in the immortal sect selection, nor does he want to join the 4 immortal sections. An Earth Immortal at the side said emotionally, Prince Yun Ting once said that he could defeat all disciples of the 4 immortal sects of the same cultivation realm with his sword. That did sound like Yun Ting. Yun Ting was also the strongest opponent Su Zimo had encountered in the same cultivation realm since he ascended. Recalling the scenes of his fight with Yun Ting, Su Zimo could not help but smile and say casually, You're not old, but you sure are arrogant, huh? After saying that, the discussions around them suddenly went silent. Many cultivators turned around and looked at Su Zimo with strange gazes. When the Earth Immortal at the side saw that Su Zimo was a little lost, as though he truly did not know, he sighed. Not long after Prince Yun Ting said that, around 500 years ago, he visited the 4 immortal sects and challenged the Earth Immortal experts of the 4 immortal sections. At that time, Prince Yun Ting was only a grade 7 Earth Immortal. He challenged a total of 32 Earth Immortal experts of the 4 immortal sects. At that point, the Earth Immortal paused for a moment. He won all 32 battles. Although he was only a grade 7 Earth Immortal, he was already invincible in the Earth Essence realm. How domineering is that? Although Prince Yun Ting did not take part in the fight for the Earth ranking, everyone knows that he's the #1 Earth Immortal. It was clear that the surrounding cultivators had heard of this matter before. Now that Yun Ting was mentioned, they were all shocked. This matter was indeed extremely sensational back then. However, Su Zimo was in seclusion in Astral Sect all year round and had almost no contact with outsiders. Naturally, he had not heard of this matter. The Earth Immortal said, Prince Yun Ting is not bragging. He does have the strength and qualifications. I heard that ever since Prince Yun Ting appeared, he has fought countless battles and roamed the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain. He fought against countless paragons and monster incarnates and has never tasted defeat. What sort of a battle record is that? Indeed impressive. Su Zimo nodded slightly. Su Zimo won the battle between the 2 of them in the Emperor's tomb. However, his remark was not perfunctory. The environment of the Emperor's tomb was special after all. Be it him or Yun Ting, neither of them released their full combat strength. If the 2 of them were to fight again, it would be hard to predict who would win. Su Zimo recalled something and suddenly asked, Yun Ting was already a grade 7 Earth Immortal 500 years ago. What's his cultivation now? No one knows about that. The Earth Immortal shook his head. I reckon that he might have already cultivated to become a grade 9 Earth Immortal. Su Zimo was silent. He had the Green Lotus True Body and sufficient cultivation resources. His cultivation speed was already extremely rare in history. To think that Yun Ting's cultivation speed would be even faster than his. He did not have any deep feud with Yun Ting. On the contrary, Su Zimo had a good impression of Yun Ting. Although the 2 of them had a conflict and Yun Ting was proud and conceited, he had never bullied with numbers or hit someone when they were down. Su Zimo still remembered everything that happened clearly. Just as the 2 of them were fighting, Fang Xian suddenly attacked him. However, Yun Ting ignored Su Zimo's attacks and changed his target decisively, wanting to kill Fang Xian on the spot. Su Zimo did not continue attacking Yun Ting and chose to turn to deal with Fang Xian as well. At that moment, the two of them formed a tacit understanding. Chapter 2107. 2107 Provocation? 2107 Provocation. The Yang Ruoxu that this person was referring to wore a white robe and sat on a bamboo chair. His posture was upright and his complexion was bronze. His face was defined and his gaze was bright as he looked at the water barrier below with a focused expression. The one on the right is Imperial Wind Temple and their leader is Heaven Immortal Green Peak. It's said that he's a strong contender for the top 10 of the next Heaven ranking. Before long, the Black Immortal introduced the situation of the 4 Immortal sects to Su Zimo. Is there any way to take part in the Immortal sect selection now? Su Zimo asked. Now. The Black Immortal was slightly stunned and could not understand what Su Zimo meant. The Immortal sect selection this time round is about to end. You can only take part in the next one. He would have to wait another 100 years for the next Immortal sect selection. Su Zimo did not want to wait. He looked up at the 4 auspicious clouds floating in the skies and took a deep breath. Suddenly, he soared into the air and flew in the direction of the 4 immortal sections. Apart from the cultivators of the 4 immortal sects, even the army of cultivators from the 2 immortal kingdoms had to watch from the peak. Su Zimo soared into the air and arrived above the heads of millions of cultivators, attracting many gazes. He did not mind being the center of attraction. Right now, he had the Trinity Auspicious Jade and was disguised as a skinny young man. No one could tell his background. Furthermore, if he wanted to take part in the Immortal sect selection, he would have to attract the attention of this millions of cultivators sooner or later. There were also cultivators from the 4 immortal sects who noticed Su Zimo. Who's there? What are you doing up here? A few Earth immortal cultivators of the immortal sects stood out and hollered. Something happened in between and I was delayed on the way. I want to take part in the Immortal sect selection this time round. Exalted Immortals, please permit me. Su Zimo stopped in his tracks and raised his head slightly with cupped fists. After saying that, there was a momentary tranquility in the initially noisy coiling Dragon Mountain range. Immediately after, a commotion broke out mixed with mockery and ridicule. Does that person know what he's talking about? Haha, I'm dying of laughter. A grade 6 Earth Immortal has the courage to jump out and want to partake in the Immortal sect selection. I'm already a grade 7 Earth Immortal but I didn't even dare to take part. People should really know their own limits. That person looks sickly and his face is withered. He's dispirited and I might be able to take his life if I push wind in his direction with my palm. Another grade 6 Earth Immortal declared proudly. The Black Immortal who spoke to Su Zimo initially was shocked as well. Some of the surrounding Earth Immortals shook their heads. I realized that this person was abnormal earlier on. He actually spouted nonsense and said that Prince Yun Ting was arrogant. That person might be delirious and was spouting nonsense. Initially, many cultivators were watching the battle. However, the appearance of this scene attracted the attention of all the cultivators and caused them to burst into laughter. The leaders of the 4 immortal sects such as Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu merely glanced at Su Zimo indifferently before retracting their gazes. A grade 6 Earth Immortal was not enough to attract their attention. Are you causing trouble? A grade 8 Earth Immortal of Heaven and Earth Academy stood out and looked at Su Zimo coldly, saying slowly, or perhaps, you're provoking our 4 immortal sects. With this accusation, this grade 8 Earth Immortal could even strike to kill Su Zimo in public. Whoa. Chapter 2108. 2108 Attention of Everyone. 2108 Attention of Everyone. Lu Wenbin. Yang Ruoxu of Heaven and Earth Academy said indifferently, just chase him away. There's no need to kill him. The grade 8 Earth Immortal named Lu Wenbin bowed hurriedly. You're not going to leave by yourself. Lu Wenbin turned to Su Zimo and hollered coldly. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, I'm not here to cause trouble or provoke you. I just want to take part in the Immortal sect selection. Ha 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 ha. Another series of laughter sounded from the mountain range below. Humph. Lu Wenbin's expression darkened as he released the might of his spirit consciousness toward Su Zimo, saying coldly, "Get the hell down." Lu Wenbin's spirit consciousness pressure did not have much offensive power, nor did he use his full strength. He merely wanted to make Su Zimo suffer and embarrass himself in front of everyone. Although he only released the power of a level 6 Earth Essence Realm spirit consciousness, as a disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, he cultivated an extremely famous spirit consciousness cultivation technique. Naturally, his spirit consciousness was much purer and more condensed than other cultivators. He could almost see the sickly young man falling from midair onto the mountain range in a wretched manner. However, when his spirit consciousness descended, Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid. He stood in midair motionlessly, as though he was not affected at all. This scene made Lu Wenbin feel embarrassed and infuriated. Even the laughter from below sounded piercing to him, as though someone was mocking him for not being able to deal with a grade 6 Earth Immortal. "Get the hell down!" Lu Wenbin shouted once more. This time round, he had no intention of holding back and released the full power of a grade 8 Earth Immortal spirit consciousness, wanting to blast Su Zimo down from midair. Su Zimo's expression did not change and his body swayed slightly. However, he still stood in midair and looked in the direction of the 4 immortal sects with a resolute gaze. Oh! This time round, it attracted the attention of the other cultivators of the 4 immortal sections. The fact that he could withstand the spirit consciousness pressure of a grade 8 Earth Immortal meant that the essence spirit realm of this grade 6 Earth Immortal was definitely not too low. It was at least at the level of a grade 8 Earth Immortal. He was only at the level 6 Earth Essence Realm, but his essence spirit was at the level 8 Earth Essence Realm. That was rare. The laughter in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range gradually died down as well. The scene before them had exceeded everyone's expectations, and the scene they were looking forward to did not happen. This person seems to have some tricks up his sleeve. Fufu, what's wrong with that? The grade 8 Earth Immortal of Heaven and Earth Academy did not even truly attack and merely released a single spirit consciousness pressure. If he had truly attacked this person, he would have been crippled a long time ago. That's right. If this person pushes his luck and angers Heaven and Earth Academy, not only will he be embarrassed, he might even lose his life. Many cultivators pouted and shook their heads with disdainful expressions. Indeed, Lu Wenbin's expression turned extremely terrible. He had attacked twice but could not chase Su Zimo down. At that moment, he felt his face burn. Not only did he embarrass himself, this might even affect Heaven and Earth Academy. If word were to spread that disciples of Heaven and Earth Academy could not even suppress an ordinary grade 6 Earth Immortal, it would be utterly humiliating, and he did not wish for that to happen. Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Although he was a disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, now that 2 Heaven Immortals had spoken, it was not appropriate for him to attack without permission. He turned to look at his senior brother, Yang Ruoxu. Yang Ruoxu remained silent as a silent acknowledgement. Helpless, Lu Wenbin could only glare at Su Zimo viciously before returning to his formation. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and continued rising into the air. Arriving before the 4 immortal sects, he cupped his fists in thanks to Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others. This time round, all the cultivators of the 4 immortal sects looked at Su Zimo. Even the 4 Heaven Immortal experts, Heaven Immortal White Sea, Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and Heaven Immortal Green Peak looked at Su Zimo. This was an unimaginable invisible pressure. If it was anyone else, they would definitely feel uneasy against experts of the 4 immortal sects and 4 Heaven Immortals who had been famous for many years and whose cultivation realms far surpassed theirs. The gazes of the 4 Heaven Immortals were like daggers. It was only logical if one was at a loss and drenched in sweat. However, Su Zimo stood in front of the 4 immortal sects with a calm expression the entire time. He did not avoid the gazes of the 4 Heaven Immortals, nor did he look guilty. Everything else aside, his courage and boldness surpassed ordinary people. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly with a hint of approval in his deep eyes. Although Heaven Immortal White Sea, Yang Ruoxu and Heaven Immortal Green Peak did not say anything, they praised internally. Up till this point of the immortal sect selection, the number of cultivators in the valley decreased and there were only slightly more than 1,000 left. The frequency of the battles gradually decreased as well. Many cultivators focused their attention on Su Zimo. He was the center of attention. Everyone wanted to see what this seemingly weak young man was up to. You want to take part in the immortal sect selection? Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan gently and asked with a smile. Do you know the cultivation realms of the cultivators taking part in the Immortal Sect selection? My cultivation realm isn't too high, but my methods aren't weak. Zimo said. How arrogant. He truly doesn't know his place. Many cultivators scoffed. To others, Zimo's words naturally sounded like bragging. However, in reality, he was already being humble. Do you know that there's only a month left for the Immortal Sect selection and the number of people is decreasing? It'll also be increasingly difficult for you to obtain enough coiling dragon badges. Heaven Abyss asked. Zimo said, Exalted Immortal, you're right. However, the less time there is, the fewer people there will be. At the same time, it means that the remaining cultivators will have more coiling dragon badges in their storage bags. If I'm lucky and manage to defeat dozens of people, I will be able to obtain enough coiling dragon badges. The initial 180,000 coiling dragon badges were now in the hands of 1,000-odd people. Some Earth Immortal experts might have hundreds or even thousands of coiling dragon badges in their storage bags. If Zimo could defeat them, he could naturally take over all the coiling dragon badges in their possession. Suddenly, Yang Ruoxu spoke, You're right, but have you ever thought that the remaining 1,000-odd Earth Immortal experts only managed to survive till now after more than 10 months of bloodshed? Indeed, there are many coiling dragon badges in the storage bags of these Earth Immortals. However, these people are not to be trifled with either. Yang Ruoxu was not wrong. There were not many Grade 7 Earth Immortals left in the valley right now, and almost all of them were Grade 8 or 9 Earth Immortals. As time passed by, the remaining Earth Immortals in the valley would become stronger and more terrifying. Yang Ruoxu said, You're not old. To be able to cultivate to this realm, your talent should not be bad. Why don't you wait to take part in the Immortal Sect selection 100 years later? At that time, you can be more confident of your odds as well. Chapter 2109. 2109 Surrounded by Wolves. 2109 Surrounded by Wolves. Zimo could tell that Yang Ruoxu was reminding him out of goodwill. If not for the pressure and some invisible threats, Zimo would not have been in a hurry to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. However, he was different from others. He did not know what changes would happen if he waited for 100 years. Zimo was silent for a moment before saying with cupped fists, I still want to take part in the Immortal Sect selection this time round. Exalted Immortals, please agree to it. Humph. In the crowd, Lu Wenbin sneered and muttered, You don't know what's good for you. Suddenly, Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, It's not impossible to take part in the Immortal Sect selection midway. However, there's a condition. What condition? Zimo asked. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said slowly, You can't bring a coiling dragon badge in. All the cultivators participating in the Immortal Sect selection had coiling dragon badges that could save their lives at critical moments. Despite that, 30,000 cultivators were dead after half a year. There were even more cultivators who were severely injured with destroyed physical bodies. In the battles, there were often cultivators who hesitated and died before they could even take out their coiling dragon badges, or those who were killed by attacks that came out of nowhere. The fights in the Immortal Sect selection were not restrained, they were filled with bloodshed and killing. The fact that he can't bring the coiling dragon badge into the valley means that he won't have any life preservation method. Not necessarily. He can defeat the others and steal their coiling dragon badges. Fufu, the people remaining are all ruthless. It won't be so easy to snatch a badge. If that person is unlucky and lands beside some ruthless person when he enters the valley, he'll die the moment he goes down. After Heaven Immortal Green Peak said that, a commotion broke out in the crowd. Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan gently and said leisurely, That's a good suggestion. If you take part in the Immortal Sect selection midway, you'll have to be different from others and bear greater danger. That's more fair. Although Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu did not express anything, they were in silent acknowledgement as well. Participating in the Immortal Sect selection midway was a violation of the rules. If one wanted to violate the rules, they would have to undertake greater risks. No problem. Zimo said. Is he crazy? He even agreed to that? I think he hasn't experienced the bloodshed of the Immortal Sect selection and doesn't know how terrifying it is inside. He truly doesn't know his place. Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly as well. There was another reason why the two of them acknowledged it earlier on. They hoped that Su Zimo would back off and come again next time. To think that Su Zimo would agree to it without hesitation. All right. Heaven Immortal White Sea closed his folding fan and praised loudly, courageous. I like it. Heaven Immortal Green Peak revealed a hint of interest as well. By now, he had looked at the people in the valley for half a year and was bored of them. Now that someone who was not afraid of death had appeared, it was unknown what sort of ripples he might bring about when he was thrown into the valley. At that moment, no one realized it. Throwing Su Zimo into the valley would not bring about ripples, but raging tides. The impact of the subsequent development of this matter would be so great that it exceeded everyone's expectations. Heaven Immortal Green Peak stood up and asked in a deep voice, if you're prepared, I'll send you into the valley. Thank you. Su Zimo nodded. Heaven Immortal Green Peak waved his sleeves and a tremendous essence chi enveloped Su Zimo's body, carrying him rapidly into a spot on the water barrier with ripples forming. When Heaven Abyss and Yang Ruoxu saw that, they frowned and glared at Heaven Immortal Green Peak at the side. Others might not be able to tell, but both of them could tell that Heaven Immortal Green Peak was clearly up to no good by choosing this landing spot for Su Zimo. Yang Ruoxu sneered, Green Peak, what's the difference between your move and killing him directly? Ha ha. Green Peak burst into laughter. Chapter 2110 2110 Divine Powers 2110 Divine Powers. When Lai Feng saw that someone was already prepared to attack, he sat on the stone and waved it off. Don't worry, he can't run. Let me ask him a few questions first. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness moved and he scanned his surroundings. There were more than 100 Earth Immortals and most of them were Grade 9 Earth Immortals. Of course he could fight. However, there was no need. He was a Grade 6 Earth Immortal and would definitely have to expose many trump cards in order to fight this group of people. He was here for the Immortal Sect selection, and all he had to do was obtain enough Coiling Dragon badges. There were millions of cultivators watching outside and he did not want to expose too much. Furthermore, he had just arrived and was unfamiliar with his surroundings. There was no need for him to fight this group of people head-on. A Grade 6 Earth Immortal like you is here to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. Lai Feng looked askance at Su Zimo and raised his brow. Yes. Su Zimo replied, however, I don't have a Coiling Dragon badge with me. No Coiling Dragon badge? Who would believe you? You want to bluff your way through with such nonsense? The surrounding cultivators burst into laughter with relaxed expressions. Lai Feng frowned slightly and asked again. The Immortal Sect selection is almost over. Why did you only come in now? It's exactly because I'm entering midway that I have no Coiling Dragon badge. Su Zimo did not hide anything and told the truth. Lai Feng sneered with a disdainful expression. Naturally, he did not believe Su Zimo's words and was about to wave his hand for the surrounding cultivators to attack. Su Zimo's gaze intensified and he suddenly stomped his foot. Boom! Boom! Instantly the ground shook. At that moment, the entire mountain shook slightly and countless rocks rolled down, causing dust to fly everywhere. Caught off guard, the many cultivators on the mountain peak staggered and jumped in shock. In that instant, Su Zimo moved and charged out of the encirclement of many cultivators at an astonishing speed. When those cultivators saw that Su Zimo was only a Grade 6 Earth Immortal, they naturally underestimated him and did not expect him to escape. Therefore, everyone's formation was a little scattered. The mountain shook violently and everyone's positions became much more scattered. Su Zimo seized the opportunity to break through the encirclement of more than 10 people and sped forward. Hold him back! Lai Feng was enraged and roared. The surrounding cultivators reacted instantly and moved one after another, summoning various dermic treasures to block in front of Su Zimo. These cultivators who could remain in the valley were naturally not easy to deal with. Some of them released movement techniques, dermic treasures, immortal arts and various divine powers. Although Su Zimo broke out of the first layer of encirclement, he was stopped by the cultivators charging over from the side before long. He was blocked at the front and pursued at the back. Many divine powers and dermic treasures descended from midair. Just as it seemed like Su Zimo had no way out, his figure flashed and he vanished from the spot. By the time he reappeared, he was already outside the encirclement. All the divine powers and dermic treasures missed. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Fufu, that person's reaction is quite fast. However, it's useless. He still can't escape. The difference in numbers and cultivation realm is too great. It's not so easy to break out of the encirclement. Where is he? Just as many cultivators were discussing, they realized that Su Zimo had suddenly vanished. Look over there. He seems to have escaped. What happened just now? A commotion broke out in the crowd. Above the mountain range, above the 4 auspicious clouds. When they saw Su Zimo's movement technique in the valley, the eyes of Heaven Immortal White Sea, Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and Heaven Immortal Green Peak lit up. This movement technique is not bad. Although it can't compare to teleportation, it's similar to Nether Swap. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly. Heaven Immortal Green Peak shook his head. He only caught them off guard. If the other party is prepared, this movement technique won't be of much use. Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan and said leisurely, "From what I know, Lai Feng has backup plans everywhere he goes. The true danger has yet to come." Yang Ruoxu said, "No matter what, from his performance so far, be it in terms of reaction, attack or judgment, he's not bad. If it was anyone else, they might not even be able to break out of the first layer of encirclement if they were surrounded by Lai Feng's group." Coiling Dragon Valley. After Su Zimo broke out of the encirclement, he sped with all his might and released boundless golden light, ethereal wings, heavenly feet and many other divine powers and secret skills. Electric arcs coiled around ethereal wings and created a thunderstorm with every flap. Those were Zephyr Thunderwings from the Void Thunder Manual. Although Su Zimo was only a grade 6 Earth Immortal, with so many secret skills and divine powers released, his speed had risen to an extremely terrifying level and he could travel 500 kilometers instantly. Despite the fact that the ones chasing behind were all grade 8 and 9 Earth Immortals, the distance between them and Su Zimo was gradually increasing. Even Lai Feng and the others with the fastest movement techniques could only hang behind Su Zimo temporarily such that they did not fall behind. Lai Feng glared at Su Zimo's back view with a cold expression and smirked. Suddenly, he conjured hand seals and his spirit consciousness moved. At the same time, Su Zimo, who was speeding forward, felt a sense of danger. He stopped in his tracks as though he was possessed and changed directions, sprinting to the other side. Right in front of the area he was about to pass by originally, a gigantic net appeared on the ground. It was coiled with spikes and shone with dark light. It was clearly smeared with poison. If Su Zimo had not changed directions, he would have been captured by the poison net. But now that Su Zimo's direction had changed, the poison net instantly missed. Lai Feng frowned and harumphed coldly. However, he did not stop and continued chasing. As Su Zimo sprinted, his heart skipped a beat and he changed directions again without warning, charging towards a towering ancient tree at the side. Bang! The towering ancient tree was snapped by Su Zimo. The many cultivators watching outside the valley did not know what Su Zimo was doing. To everyone, such an action was completely unnecessary and would reduce their speed instead. But soon, everyone noticed something unusual. After the towering ancient tree broke, a figure was sent flying along with it. He spat out blood in midair and landed in the mud far away with a dispirited expression and feeble breathing. This was also a killing move set up by Lai Feng. This assassin was lying in ambush nearby and was fused with the towering ancient tree such that no one could detect him. To think that Su Zimo would send this assassin flying before the latter could attack. That seemingly simple collision shattered all the bones in the assassin's body by Su Zimo. The assassin was scared out of his wits when he saw Su Zimo chasing after him. Hurriedly, he summoned his coiling dragon badge and a vortex sucked him away, leaving behind a coiling dragon badge. Su Zimo did not stop at all. He picked up the coiling dragon badge and continued speeding. Before long, he arrived at the foot of the mountain, leaving Lai Feng and the others behind. Chapter 2111. 2111 Cat and Mouse? 2111 Cat and Mouse. Heavens, that person's movement technique is so fast. He managed to escape just like that. It's not that easy. The toll on him after releasing so many divine powers and secret skills is unimaginable. If they continue hunting him, he will die the moment his essence chi is depleted. This time round, the millions of cultivators on Coiling Dragon Mountain Range were attracted by the scene in the valley. Out of sympathy for the weak, many cultivators were secretly nervous and worried for Su Zimo. In midair, Heaven Abyss shook his head. This can't continue. This area is filled with forests and shrubs. He can't release his speed and won't be able to escape the pursuit of Lai Feng and the others completely. Right then, Su Zimo, who was in the valley, suddenly transformed after turning around the foot of a mountain. He shrank into a tiny ant and crawled slowly through the cracks of the rocks. 72 transformations. Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly and murmured. This choice was a little risky. If he used the 72 transformations and transformed into flora or insects, he could naturally hide his tracks. However, it also meant that he would lose his previous burst speed. After transforming into an ant, he had to crawl on the ground like the other ants. Once seen through, it was equivalent to no way out and he would fall into danger once more. Before long, Lai Feng and the others caught up to this place but realized that they had lost track of Su Zimo completely. What happened? Someone asked. Lai Feng frowned and said deeply, there's no way he could have escaped so quickly. Search carefully and see if he's hiding nearby. Everyone released their spirit consciousnesses hurriedly and scanned the vicinity carefully, not missing any birds, beasts, flora or insects. However, no one discovered Su Zimo's location. During this period of time, the spirit consciousnesses of cultivators swept past the ant that Su Zimo transformed into, but they did not notice anything unusual. Under normal circumstances, if Su Zimo used the greater divine power, the 72 transformations, although he transformed into an ant, he would definitely reveal an opening with traces of divine powers and aura. However, Su Zimo was using the Trinity Auspicious Jade right now. His transformation could practically hide from the entire world. After lingering for a long time, more than 100 cultivators caught up to them, but Lai Feng and the others could not find Su Zimo. Leader Lai Feng, that person must have escaped far away. Someone said. Lai Feng cursed, how unlucky. Where did this lad come from? I was a little careless. If we meet again, I'll definitely not let him off. What should we do now? Another person asked. Let's leave this place first. Glancing into the distance, Lai Feng seemed wary as he waved his hand and left with 100-odd cultivators. Before long, the forest returned to normal. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Millions of cultivators watched everything with dumbfounded expressions. When Lai Feng and the others searched the area earlier on, everyone could clearly see through the water barrier that the ant that Su Zimo conjured was not far away from Lai Feng and the others. However, both parties passed just like that. Many cultivators heaved a sigh of relief. This outcome had not only exceeded the expectations of the millions of cultivators in the mountain range. Even the cultivators of the 4 immortal sects in midair were surprised. Making a move to break out of the encirclement, dodging the killing dangers, knocking away the assassin who was lying in ambush, obtaining the Coiling Dragon badge and eventually hiding from the entire world. His series of actions felt astonishing even at this point. Not only did that person who was bound to die not die, he even obtained a Coiling Dragon badge. This also meant that as long as this person was careful, he could at least survive in the valley. Not bad. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly. Although Heaven Abyss did not say much, it was already rare for him to give such praise. Yang Ruoxu nodded as well. Everything else aside, that reaction and judgment is enough to tell that this lad's talent is indeed extraordinary. No one outside the valley knew that the methods displayed by Su Zimo were merely the tip of the iceberg. Chapter 2112. 2112 Sudden Speed Burst. 2112 Sudden Speed Burst. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and sprinted with the help of many divine powers and secret skills. He was a grade 6 Earth Immortal. However, with the augmentation of boundless golden light, heavenly feet, ethereal wings and zephyr thunderwings, the speed released was something that even most grade 9 Earth Immortals could not catch up to. Yet, after a while, Su Zimo realized that he could not shake off Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Princess Scarlet Rainbow's figure was almost one with the flying sword beneath her feet. Speeding through the air, one could only see a streak of scarlet light flash at an astonishing speed. Even the many cultivators watching outside could easily lose track of Princess Scarlet Rainbow if they were careless. When Su Zimo saw that he could not shake off Princess Scarlet Rainbow for the time being, he repeated the same trick. Channeling the Trinity Auspicious Jade, he transformed into a chickadee and mixed into a group of chickadees, traveling through the forest. Princess Scarlet Rainbow behind him seemed to have vanished as well. Suddenly, a warning flashed in Su Zimo's mind. A shadow shrouded down from above and a gigantic goshawk swooped down. Its gaze was sharp as a sword as it glared at Su Zimo, who was among the chickadees and grabbed down viciously. The surrounding chickadees dispersed in fright. Humph! Knowing that he was exposed, Su Zimo reverted to his human form instantly and continued speeding into the distance. Hee hee! Princess Scarlet Rainbow smiled gently and revealed herself, chasing after him once more. The two of them continued dueling. During this period of time, Su Zimo made use of the Trinity Auspicious Jade to conjure various birds, beasts, flora and insects. However, he could not escape the detection of Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Princess Scarlet Rainbow transformed as well and hunted Su Zimo with all sorts of living beings. The complexity of the changes was dazzling. Although the chase and duel between the two of them did not take place head-on, it was even more exciting and dangerous to the outsiders. Many cultivators on Coiling Dragon Mountain Range widened their eyes and held their breaths. Even so, many cultivators would often lose track of Su Zimo and Princess Scarlet Rainbow. From time to time, shouts could be heard from the crowd asking for their location. Heaven Immortal Green Peak clapped and laughed. This lad is truly unlucky to have met Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Princess Scarlet Rainbow sure seems cheery. To think that she would play with this lad for so long. Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his fan and smiled. Yang Ruoxu shook his head gently and said regrettably, "It's already not easy for this lad to achieve such a movement technique as a grade 6 Earth Immortal. Unfortunately, he's targeted by Princess Scarlet Rainbow." Within the valley, Su Zimo realized that he had already been locked onto by Princess Scarlet Rainbow's aura. Even with the unpredictable Trinity Auspicious Jade, he could not break free from her. Su Zimo stopped in his tracks and turned around. Hee hee! Princess Scarlet Rainbow appeared and looked at Su Zimo with a playful expression, smiling. "Puny grade 6 Earth Immortal, why aren't you running anymore?" "Princess, why are you chasing after me?" Su Zimo frowned. "I've just arrived in this valley and I only have a single Coiling Dragon badge with me. It's totally insignificant to you." When Su Zimo arrived at the valley, he was hunted down by Lai Feng's group before he did anything. Now that he was targeted by Princess Scarlet Rainbow, he could not help but look impatient and his tone did not have much respect. Humph! Princess Scarlet Rainbow pouted her lips slightly. "I'll help you get enough Coiling Dragon badges. After that, you'll join the same Immortal Sect as me and listen to me, understand?" Princess Scarlet Rainbow spoke to herself and even reminded Su Zimo as though things had already panned out. Suppressing the urge to roll his eyes, Su Zimo said in a deep voice, "Princess, you're overestimating me. I'm eccentric and unruly, so I can't be someone's guard. Please find someone else." Having finished his words, Su Zimo left without even turning back. Swoosh! In a flash, Princess Scarlet Rainbow arrived before Su Zimo and blocked his path. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Princess Scarlet Rainbow said seductively, "From the looks of it, you seem to have yet to recover from a serious illness. You definitely lack tonics. At that time, I'll help you look for some treasures in the palace to nourish your body. I'll definitely be able to nourish you until you're fair and chubby. Princess, if there's nothing else, don't stand in the way." Su Zimo's tone turned increasingly impatient. Humph! When Princess Scarlet Rainbow saw that the soft approach did not work, she was a little angry as well. Grinding a pair of petite canine teeth, she threatened, "You really don't know what's good for you. You can't beat me nor can you escape. Do you believe that I'll snatch your Coiling Dragon badge right now? Is that so?" Su Zimo cupped his fists and said indifferently, "Princess, farewell. We'll meet again if fate allows it." With that said, Su Zimo released many divine powers and secret skills once more and sped into the distance. Humph! Princess Scarlet Rainbow sneered, "You still want to escape?" Before her sentence was finished, Princess Scarlet Rainbow transformed into another streak of light and chased after Su Zimo. This time round, She did not want to continue playing. She used her full strength and the distance between them closed slowly. Suddenly, a pair of gigantic golden wings grew behind Xueqi. They shone brightly and were filled with a powerful divine power aura. Phew! The pair of golden wings flapped, creating a storm. Instantly, Xueqi's speed increased exponentially. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from the spot and transformed into a golden streak of light that tore through the air. The rock wings were one of Xueqi's strongest trump cards, and he had not intended to expose them initially. However, Princess Scarlet Rainbow was truly troublesome to deal with. Xueqi was unwilling to get entangled with her and released his innate divine power to flee far away. Princess Scarlet Rainbow was stunned, but she reacted quickly and released all her blood chi to chase. However, not long after, she lost track of Xueqi completely. She had actually lost him. Princess Scarlet Rainbow stood in midair in a daze with a lost expression. For a moment, she could not accept the truth. What was going on? What happened earlier on? How did that little guard gain a sudden speed burst? Princess Scarlet Rainbow was puzzled. Initially, she thought that this was a game of cat and mouse. To think that the rat would suddenly grow wings and fly away. Even the crowd outside the valley was in an uproar, let alone Princess Scarlet Rainbow, who was involved. Where is he? Where did he go? I don't know. He disappeared instantly. A commotion broke out. Even the eyes of the 4 Heaven Immortal experts in the skies lit up. This lad's movement technique is truly... Heaven Immortal White Sea hesitated. This movement technique could no longer be described as extraordinary. All right. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly and a smile appeared on his cold face. Yang Ruoxu revealed a look of admiration as well. Even Heaven Immortal Green Peak, who threw Xueqi into the crowd, had a change in attitude. Chapter 2113. 2113 Who is this lad? 2113 Who is this lad? He's only good at escaping. I don't think he's that capable. Lu Wenbin of Heaven and Earth Academy muttered at the back. Previously, he had a short conflict with Xueqi and was embarrassed. Naturally, he disliked Xueqi no matter what. Yang Ruoxu shook his head gently and asked, "Isn't it impressive for someone at the level 6 Earth Essence realm to possess such a movement technique and even surpass Princess Scarlet Rainbow? Can you compare to him?" Yang Ruoxu's words had a hint of lecturing in them. In reality, he was telling Lu Wenbin to be humble and not be arrogant. Lu Wenbin was indignant and his face flushed red as he argued, "Senior brother, you can't say that. What's the use of his movement technique no matter how fast he is? This is the Immortal Sect selection, not a trial of movement technique. Back when I was selected to enter the academy, I relied on my own combat strength to fight my way out. Furthermore, the rules of the Immortal Sect selection are clear. One requires sufficient coiling dragon badges to become the final victors. Even if he can survive till the end with that movement technique, he won't be able to join the 4 immortal sects without the coiling dragon badges." Heaven Immortal White Sea chuckled. "Your junior brother isn't wrong." Yang Ruoxu remained silent. If the person in the valley could not obtain enough coiling dragon badges, the rules of the Immortal Sect selection could not be broken no matter how much he admired this talent. Within the valley. After a while, Princess Scarlet Rainbow gradually snapped out of her stupor and could not help but stomp her feet. Grinding her petite canine teeth, she said angrily, "Run then. There's only a month left. I don't believe that I won't be able to catch you in this valley." With that said, Princess Scarlet Rainbow left as well. On the other side, after Xueqi broke free from the entanglement of Princess Scarlet Rainbow, he changed directions a few times before slowing down. His goal was to get his hands on coiling dragon badges. There was only a month left. That was enough time. This stage was unlike the initial stage of the Immortal Sect selection where cultivators could be encountered everywhere and battles were fought constantly. Right now, there were only slightly more than 1,000 people left. Even if he searched everywhere, he might not find people. For example, some cultivators who had already obtained enough coiling dragon badges could choose to hide in a secluded spot out of caution and appear only when time was almost up. It was even more impossible to find cultivators as such. After circling the valley for almost half a day, Xueqi finally encountered another cultivator. It was a lone cultivator and his cultivation was at the level 7 Earth Essence realm. This time round, Zimo did not escape. This was the type of cultivator he was looking for. A lone target whose cultivation was not high. He could get rid of this person with ease and snatch his coiling dragon badges without having to expose too many methods. When the grade 7 Earth Immortal opposite saw Zimo, he suddenly became extremely nervous and wary. However, after checking Zimo's cultivation realm, he heaved a sigh of relief. To think that I would encounter a grade 6 Earth Immortal here. I'm truly lucky. The grade 7 Earth Immortal looked at Zimo calmly and pouted. Lad, hand over your coiling dragon badges and I'll spare your life. All right, I'll spare your life, Zimo said as well. Before his sentence was finished, he had already charged over in a flash. The moment the word life was said, Zimo had already arrived before the grade 7 Earth Immortal. It was too fast. The distance between the two of them was extremely close. You! He did not even have time to take out the dermic treasures in his storage bag. The grade 7 Earth Immortal could only raise his arm instinctively to defend. Bang! Zimo's palm landed on the person's arms. Crack! Right on the heels of that, the sound of bones cracking echoed. The person's arms were snapped by Zimo's palm and a tremendous force broke through the obstruction of his arms, landing on his chest and sending him flying dozens of feet away. As the grade 7 Earth Immortal was sent flying, Zimo followed him closely behind with a cold gaze. Initially, this person wanted to consume some elixir pills to stabilize his injuries before escaping from this place. However, he was scared out of his wits when he met with Zimo's gaze. He hurriedly took out his coiling dragon badge and activated the protective barrier on it, allowing himself to be dragged out of the valley by the vortex of the water barrier. After that person left, his storage bag with the coiling dragon badges landed in the valley and exploded. Dozens of coiling dragon badges fell out and floated in midair. Zimo waved his sleeves and put away the dozens of coiling dragon badges. With an unchanged expression, he turned to leave. Given his capabilities, it was naturally extremely easy for him to kill that person earlier on and snatch the coiling dragon badges. However, the two of them met by chance and had no grudges. Zimo was not someone who killed indiscriminately. If he took someone's life just for the sake of the Immortal Sect selection, he would be no different from those bloodthirsty people in the 10 absolute hell. He won just like that? Isn't that way too easy? That grade 7 Earth Immortal was careless. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost the initiative. If you say that this person is unlucky, it's true. He was surrounded by Lai Feng and the others and encountered Princess Scarlet Rainbow. However, if you want to say that he's lucky, it's true as well. To think that he would encounter one of the few remaining grade 7 Earth Immortals in the valley. He only obtained dozens of coiling dragon badges. He's still far from 1,800. As time passed, the rough candidates were already decided and there were not many variables. Therefore, many cultivators focused their attention on Zimo. They wanted to see how much longer this grade 6 Earth Immortal could last. Soft. Heaven Abyss did not say much and merely said a single word. However, Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others understood what he meant. He was referring to being soft-hearted. This person was not tough, decisive or ruthless enough. In the mortal world, this was naturally a good quality. However, in the cultivation world, it was easy for unnecessary trouble to arise if one was soft-hearted. Yang Ruoxu shook his head. Not really. He leaves a way out and doesn't kill everyone. At the very least, he won't sow too many grudges with others or make strong foes. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, "Let's continue watching. As time passes, it will become increasingly difficult for this lad to obtain coiling dragon badges. The remaining grade 7 Earth Immortals are decreasing. He will definitely have to face grade 8 or even grade 9 Earth Immortals." Suddenly, Yang Ruoxu asked, "Who is this lad?" Everyone was at a loss. Some cultivators asked around but no one knew his name. At that moment, everyone in the Coiling Dragon Mountain range had yet to realize what sort of a person the seemingly sickly young man they threw into the valley was. Before long, everyone's impression of this young man would be completely overturned. The execution guard held the letter with both hands and handed it over respectfully. Prince Yuanzhua received the letter and was about to tear off the seal when his heart skipped a beat. He handed it back to the execution guard in front of him and said indifferently, "Help me open it, but don't read the contents." The execution guard's heart turned cold. Naturally, he could tell that Prince Yuanzhua was worried that there would be danger lurking in the sealed letter, and that was why he wanted him to give it a try. Although he could tell Prince Yuanzhua's intentions, he did not dare to resist. He could only grit his teeth and wipe away the seal before withdrawing a page of paper from within. Nothing happened throughout the entire process. The execution guard broke out in cold sweat and heaved a sigh of relief. Prince Yuanzhua was emotionless as he took the letter and opened it. He merely glanced at it casually and his expression changed. The execution guard stole a glance. Prince Yuanzhua stared at the letter in his hands with a changing expression. It was unknown what was written on the letter. The execution guard could vaguely see that there seemed to be a portrait drawn on the back of the letter. However, most of it was covered by Prince Yuanzhua's palm and could not be seen clearly. A moment later, Prince Yuanzhua said slowly, "Get Commander Lone Star to meet me." After a brief pause, he continued, "As soon as possible." "Understood." The execution guard turned to leave hurriedly. Before long, the commander of the Heaven Execution Guards, Lone Star, arrived and entered the hall hurriedly, asking in a deep voice, "Your Highness, what happened?" "Take a look." Prince Yuanzhua handed the letter to Lone Star. Lone Star took a look and his expression changed as well as he exclaimed, "Su Zimo. He has already left the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom and is taking part in the Immortal Sect selection in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range? Who wrote this letter? Is the source reliable?" Lone Star asked hurriedly. "I don't know who wrote it." Prince Yuanzhua frowned deeply and shook his head. There's no way to determine if the news is reliable. However, the contents of the letter seem real and there are even many details that match it. The letter said that Su Zimo knows a transformation technique that can change his appearance for a long time. That's the reason why he was able to hide in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom for more than 2,000 years. And now, Su Zimo has transformed into a sickly young man and is taking part in the Immortal Sect selection. Behind the letter is a portrait of this young man. Although the drawing is ordinary, his attire, physique, countenance and facial features have been drawn. If you see the real person, you'll definitely be able to recognize him. Just as Prince Yuanzhua was discussing, the letter in Lone Star's hands suddenly burned without warning. The two of them hurriedly tried to extinguish the flames on the letter, but to no avail. In the blink of an eye, the letter turned into ashes and dissipated in midair without a trace. This. Prince Yuanzhua and Lone Star exchanged glances. Both could tell of the other's fear. The methods of the person who wrote the letter were unfathomable and far surpassed the two of them. Suddenly, the hall went silent. A long time later, Lone Star asked, "What do you think, Your Highness?" Prince Yuanzhua clenched his fists slightly and said in a deep voice, "I'd rather believe it than not. Since I've obtained this news, I've got to check things out at Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. If Su Zimo truly manages to join the 4 immortal sects after the Immortal Sect selection ends, it'll be difficult to deal with him then." Lone Star nodded as well. "Even if the news is wrong, we'll just make a wasted trip at most without any losses." However, Coiling Dragon Mountain Range is no longer under the jurisdiction of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Even if we appear, it won't be easy to deal with him. "Yes." Prince Yuanzhua pondered for a moment. "Go down and gather the execution guards first. I'll leave after sending a message. The Immortal Sect selection is about to end. Let's move immediately and not delay." Chapter 2115. 2115 Change in Situation. 2115 Change in Situation. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. The Immortal Sect selection was still ongoing and as time passed by, the number of cultivators remaining in the valley decreased. Unexpectedly, the Grade 6 Earth Immortal who should have been eliminated soon did not leave. On the contrary, the sickly young man seemed to have suddenly become lively and energetic when he arrived in the valley. He ran around without resting at all. On the first day he entered the valley, that person escaped from the encirclement of Lai Feng and the others. Furthermore, he managed to escape from the pursuit of Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Thereafter, he defeated a Grade 7 Earth Immortal and obtained dozens of Coiling Dragon badges. On the third day, That person encountered another grade 7 Earth Immortal, and his methods were still simple. He made use of his movement technique speed to catch the other party off guard and obtained more than 10 coiling dragon badges. In the following period of time, when the young man encountered grade 8 or 9 Earth Immortals, he turned to flee without hesitation. In this valley, even Princess Scarlet Rainbow could not catch up to him, let alone others. They could only watch him leave each time. If he encountered a lone grade 7 Earth Immortal, the young man would take the initiative to fight and would always win without any exceptions. However, on the 15th day, the situation gradually changed. There were still more than 10 days left and the Immortal Sect selection was about to end. As for the cultivators in the valley, there were only slightly more than 500 left and most of them were eliminated. Among the remaining 500-odd people, almost all of them were grade 8 or 9 Earth Immortals. As for Zimo, he had not encountered a single grade 7 Earth Immortal for more than 4 days. Right now, he had more than 300 coiling dragon badges in his storage bag and was quite a distance away from 1,800. If I'm not wrong, there shouldn't be much changes in the number of coiling dragon badges he has anymore. It's way too difficult. A spectating cultivator said, that person's movement technique is so strong and his methods are not weak. He can even kill above his level but he only obtains slightly more than 300 coiling dragon badges. Another person pouted. The Immortal Sect selection is held once every 100 years and only 100 people are selected at a time. What do you think that means? It means that on average, there's only one Earth Immortal in Divine Firmament Mainland who gets to join the 4 Immortal Sects every year. How difficult is that? It's even harder than ascending the heavens. High in the skies, clouds surged and Immortal Chi was ethereal. Yang Ruoxu shook his head. This can't continue. If he wants to obtain enough coiling dragon badges, he has to find against grade 8 Earth Immortals. There were not many grade 7 Earth Immortals left in the valley. Furthermore, grade 7 Earth Immortals did not have many coiling dragon badges to begin with. Even if Zimo searched for all the remaining grade 7 Earth Immortals and snatched their coiling dragon badges, it would be difficult for him to gather 1,800. Grade 8 Earth Immortal, difficult. Heaven Abyss said slowly. Defeating a grade 8 Earth Immortal was a difference of 2 minor realms and the difficulty was doubled. Furthermore, which of the grade 8 Earth Immortals in the valley who could last till now were not strong with many trump cards? Even in a fight of the same cultivation realm, victory was unpredictable, let alone 2 minor cultivation realms above. Suddenly, Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, this lad's movement technique is not bad. He's quite suitable to cultivate in Imperial Wind Temple. What's the use of being suitable? Heaven Immortal White Sea chuckled. If that lad only has slightly more than 300 coiling dragon badges, we can't break the rules no matter how suitable he is. Right then, Yang Ruoxu exclaimed softly and suddenly said, that lad has encountered a grade 8 Earth Immortal. In the past 10 days, he has encountered countless grade 8 and 9 Earth Immortals. At most, he would just turn and flee. What's so special about that? Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan in disapproval. He's not fleeing, Heaven Abyss said in a deep voice. Chapter 2116 2116 Appearance of the Big Dipper Diagram. 2116 Appearance of the Big Dipper Diagram. This shield was a perfect grade Earth Immortal dermic treasure. What's the physique of this person? He's so terrifying. Xiao Yun was alarmed. The battle had already broken out and Zimo attacked once more. There was no time for him to think. With a long howl, Xiao Yun channeled his blood chi and withdrew a gigantic axe from his storage bag. He wielded the shield and axe as he fought against Zimo. The more Xiao Yun fought, the more alarmed he became. Right from the beginning, Zimo did not use any dermic treasures and suppressed him completely with his bare hands. Even then, he did not have any chance to resist. His shield and gigantic axe could not gain any advantage against Zimo's body. Both parties had only exchanged 7 to 8 blows when Xiao Yun felt his arm go sore. His teeth were loosened and blood was seeping out of his mouth. The seemingly sickly young man seemed to possess endless strength with every single move he made. Furthermore, the power of every punch and palm strike turned increasingly ferocious and vast as the sea, as though they wanted to devour him and crush him into nothingness. Xiao Yun could not imagine how such a seemingly frail body could possess such terrifying power. Right now, Su Zimo was a grade 10 green lotus true body. Even without using his bloodline, he could fight against a connate earth-grade dermic treasure head-on. He cultivated the Void Thunder Manual and possessed the Thunder Bones. Even without using any blood chi, the power of his punches and kicks far surpassed the past. Xiao Yun had not even cultivated to the Tsunami Blood Realm and was far inferior compared to the Green Lotus True Body with the Thunder Bones. If not for the difference of two minor realms, Xiao Yun would not have been able to defend against a single palm strike from Su Zimo. Xiao Yun received a few more punches from Su Zimo and his bones creaked. If this continued, his bones would fall apart and his organs would be ruptured. Good. Xiao Yun's expression was ruthless as he wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and glared at Su Zimo fiercely. This trump card of mine was originally prepared for the other Earth Immortal experts. Since you forced me to this point, don't blame me. With that said, Xiao Yun slapped his storage bag. This was a separate storage bag and 4 figures jumped out. Although the 4 figures were similar to humans, they were wrapped in some sort of metal and shone with a dark golden luster. Puppets. Su Zimo frowned slightly. That's right. Xiao Yun hollered, hold him back. The 4 puppets split into 4 directions and lunged towards Su Zimo expressionlessly. Su Zimo raised his fist and punched a puppet in the chest, sending it flying. Thereafter, he slapped another puppet on the side of the face and sent it flying dozens of feet away. The 2 puppets crawled up rapidly. One of the puppets' chest had already caved in deeply, and was almost penetrated by Su Zimo's punch. The head of the other puppet was contorted by Su Zimo's palm as well. However, the 2 puppets were still unaffected and did not feel any pain as they lunged towards Su Zimo once more. This was the terror of puppets. They felt no pain and were not afraid of death. On the other side, Xiao Yun caught a breather and consumed a handful of elixir pills. He began to channel his essence spirit, circulated his immortal arts and secret skills, summoned his dermic treasures and joined forces with the 4 puppets to launch a ferocious attack on Su Zimo. For a moment, Su Zimo was surrounded and seemed to be struggling. He was in a perilous situation and could not resist at all. Sigh. On the mountain range, a cultivator sighed. What a pity to meet a strong foe like Xiao Yun. Otherwise, I think this grade 6 Earth Immortal has a chance of defeating a grade 8 Earth Immortal. Yes, this person is indeed capable since he dared to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. Unfortunately, he can't hold on any longer. The attitude of many cultivators towards Su Zimo had gradually changed. High in the skies, Heaven Immortal White Sea shook his head. That lad won't be able to hold on for much longer. If he doesn't have any other methods, victory will be decided in another 10 rounds. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, unfortunate. The moment Xiao Yun released his puppets was this lad's only chance to avoid them and turn to escape. Now that he's surrounded by the 4 puppets and is suppressed by Xiao Yun's immortal arts and divine powers, there's no chance for him to escape. Yang Ruoxu said, even a grade 9 Earth Immortal might not have a chance of winning against Xiao Yun and the 4 puppets. Lu Wenbin, who was standing behind Yang Ruoxu, was indignant. He sneered and muttered softly, even without Xiao Yun, someone like him who doesn't know his place will definitely encounter other strong foes and would be taught a lesson sooner or later. Right then, the situation in the valley changed. The sickly young man shuddered and conjured hand seals repeatedly. Suddenly, a vast star diagram appeared above his head. A large portion of the star diagram was dim. However, the lit area was shocking enough. Stars filled the skies and millions of beams of starlight shone down on the young man. The young man shone with resplendent starlight from head to toe and was like a god beneath the starry skies that could not be ignored. Ah, what's that? Could it be a bloodline phenomenon? I'm not sure. I didn't see him activate his bloodline. A series of exclamations came from outside the valley. In the clouds, the gazes of the 4 Heaven Immortal experts intensified. They stood up at the same time and looked at the scene in the valley with shocked expressions. That's not a bloodline phenomenon. Heaven Abyss shook his head slowly. This star diagram seems to be. Heaven Immortal Green Peak was in deep thought. It should be the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram. Yang Ruoxu said in a deep voice. That's right. Heaven Immortal Green Peak's eyes lit up as he blurted, "It's the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram. To think that this legendary astral secret skill would reappear." Senior Brother White C. Right then, a disciple of Flying Immortal Sect went forward and said, "Previously, there was news that a cultivator had indeed obtained Astral Sect's inheritance. Thereafter, that cultivator disappeared. Seems like there's no mistake." Heaven Immortal White C burst into laughter. "This should be the same person." The four Heaven Immortals looked at Su Zimo with a hint of admiration, as though they had seen a treasure. In the valley, Su Zimo summoned the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram and his combat strength increased exponentially. He attacked once more and tore two puppets apart from the middle. The remaining two puppets were shattered by him and lost their combat strength. Instantly, the situation reversed. Xiao Yun no longer had any helpers and was left alone against Su Zimo, who had the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram hovering above his head. There was no doubt about the outcome. Su Zimo charged forward and defeated Xiao Yun within a few rounds, snatching all 800-odd coiling dragon badges from the latter's storage bag. Xiao Yun felt aggrieved. He did not know what the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram was, nor did he know what happened. It was as though he had suddenly been defeated by a grade 6 Earth Immortal while he was in a daze. A series of exclamations sounded from the crowd watching from Coiling Dragon Mountain Range as well. Many cultivators discussed excitedly. However, Su Zimo had a calm expression. Although this battle seemed lively, the ups and downs were all under his control. He even revealed the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram intentionally. This way, firstly, his identity would not be exposed, and secondly, he would reveal some capabilities that would be enough to attract the attention of the four immortal sections. If Su Zimo truly wanted to defeat Xiao Yun, a single round would have probably sufficed. Chapter 2117. 2117 Demand. 2117 Demand. Above Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, Heaven Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan gently and smiled. Including Xiao Yun's 800-odd coiling dragon badges, that lad should have more than 1,200. 1,241. Heaven Abyss opened his mouth and said a number. Nobody doubted the authenticity of that figure. Heaven Abyss did not say much, but he had been paying attention to Su Zimo. Yang Ruoxu nodded slightly. He has the help of the Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram. Since he can defeat Xiao Yun, who is 2 minor realms above him, it won't be difficult for him to gather 1,800 coiling dragon badges in this valley. In the eyes of the four of them, Su Zimo's current methods were enough to rank him among the final 100. This young man might not be the one with the most coiling dragon badges by the time the Immortal Sect selection was over. However, to a certain extent, the talent displayed by this person even surpassed others and was definitely not weaker than Princess Scarlet Rainbow or Prince Yunlei. This person was only a grade 6 Earth Immortal and his potential was way too great. In the eyes of the four Heaven Immortals, this young man was the most outstanding, dazzling and worthy cultivator of the Immortal Sect selection. Suddenly, Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, "Everyone, I've said it earlier on. This lad's movement technique is outstanding, and he's most suited to cultivate in Imperial Wind Temple. Fellow Taoists, please don't fight with me for this person." Fellow Taoist Green Peak, if I didn't recall wrongly, you looked down on him back then and even threw him into Lai Feng's group. You hoped that he would be eliminated as soon as possible. Yang Ruoxu sneered and looked at Heaven Immortal Green Peak, mocking, "Why? You want to recruit him to Imperial Wind Temple now? Brother Yang, you must be joking." Heaven Immortal Green Peak's expression did not change. "I had my motive for doing this back then. It was mainly to test him and let him reveal his true capabilities. I had no ill intentions." Heaven Immortal Green Peak said such nonsense with an absolutely nonchalant expression. "Foo-foo." Heaven Immortal White Sea chuckled. "Fellow Taoist Green Peak, even if you tell him that, he might not believe you. In my opinion, Imperial Wind Temple is the least likely sect he will join." "Humph." Heaven Immortal Green Peak said proudly, "Joining Imperial Wind Temple will mean the greatest improvement for him and we can maximize his advantage to the limits. He's a smart man and will definitely understand this logic." "Not necessarily." Heaven Abyss, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly spoke. "This lad's physique is all right and he's also organized in melee combat. Among the four immortal sects, Mountain Sea Immortal Sect is the strongest in body tempering. If this lad joins Mountain Sea Immortal Sect, he will be able to cultivate a top-tier body tempering cultivation technique and learn brilliant melee combat skills. That will be the greatest help to him. Heaven Abyss rarely spoke and had always been a man of few words. To think that he would say such a thing in order to fight for Su Zimo. Yang Ruoxu shook his head gently. This lad lacks immortal arts and secret skills while Heaven and Earth Academy has many. In my opinion, the right way is to join Heaven and Earth Academy. Even though Su Zimo had yet to obtain 1,800 coiling dragon badges, the leaders of the 4 immortal sects were already fighting for him. The 4 of them knew that if nothing went wrong, this young man would definitely be able to obtain enough coiling dragon badges. Swoosh! Heaven Immortal White Sea opened his folding fan and said with a smile, "Let's not argue for now. There's still more than 10 days left and we can consider it slowly. Since everyone is interested in this lad, the final choice will still be his." Right then, a group of cultivators sped over from afar. The 2 people in the lead had powerful auras and murderous killing intents. They were hostile. "Look, Prince Yuan Zhua of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom is here." The Immortal Sect selection this time round sure is lively. Including Prince Yuan Zhua, there are now princes and princesses from all 3 immortal kingdoms. Prince Yuan Zhua has more than 100 Earth Execution Guards behind him. He doesn't seem to be friendly. Chapter 2118 2118 Scheme 2118 Scheme. Prince Yuan Zhua and Lone Star soared into the air with many execution guards and stood in front of the 4 immortal sections. "Greetings, fellow Taoists. I'm Yuan Zhua of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom." Prince Yuan Zhua cupped his fists and greeted Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others. He looked at Heaven Immortal White Sea with a slightly more enthusiastic gaze. After all, Heaven Immortal White Sea was an inner sect disciple of Flying Immortal Sect. Meng Yao was also a legacy disciple of Flying Immortal Sect. Furthermore, he and Meng Yao were siblings. From that point of view, he had some connection to Heaven Immortal White Sea. "Prince Yuan Zhua, how have you been?" Heaven Immortal White Sea smiled gently and stood up. He closed his folding fan and returned the greeting with cupped fists. Heaven Abyss nodded slightly without standing up as a form of greeting. Yang Ruoxu stood up and returned the greeting. He merely nodded and followed through the motions before returning to his seat. Heaven Immortal Green Peak did not stand up or return the greeting. He merely smiled and asked, "Prince Yuan Zhua, you've come from afar. What brings you here?" There was a hint of mockery in Heaven Immortal Green Peak's words. If Prince Yuan Zhua was still the same as before, he would naturally not dare to do this. But now that Prince Yuan Zhua's status had plummeted and he had lost his territory, Heaven Immortal Green Peak naturally looked down on him. Lone Star's expression darkened but he did not say anything. Prince Yuan Zhua pretended not to notice and smiled. "It's not a big deal. Recently, I received news that a sinner wanted by the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom for many years is in the vicinity of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, so I brought people over to take a look." At that point, Prince Yuan Zhua paused for a moment and glanced at the expressions of Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others. Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and Heaven Immortal Green Peak were experienced and expressionless. Although Heaven Immortal White Sea had a smile on his face the entire time, he did not say anything either. Prince Yuan Zhua could not read his mind. When the 4 of them did not reply, the atmosphere fell silent in an awkward manner. Prince Yuan Zhua took a deep breath and could only continue. "I want to capture this sinner back to the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. However, out of respect, I still have to greet the 4 of you." "Oh." Heaven Immortal White Sea raised his brow slightly and asked, "Where is this sinner?" Prince Yuan Zhua turned around slightly and pointed to a figure in the valley. "That's him." The direction Prince Yuan Zhua was pointing was where Su Zimo was. Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others frowned at the same time. The crowd below stirred when they saw that. Prince Yuan Zhua said hurriedly, "This is the sinner wanted by the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom for more than 2,000 years, Su Zimo." The crowd was in an uproar. "That Grade 6 Earth Immortal is Su Zimo. I heard that more than 2,000 years ago, Su Zimo was only a Grade 1 Earth Immortal. How did he cultivate so quickly? That doesn't seem right. I've seen a portrait of Su Zimo from the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom before. It seems to be different from this young man's appearance. A commotion broke out from the mountain range. Heaven Immortal White Sea frowned slightly as well. Fellow Taoist Yuan Zhua, are you mistaken? There's no mistake. Prince Yuan Zhua said in a deep voice. Su Zimo specializes in a disguise technique that's almost the same as myriad transformations. His current appearance is a disguise. Everyone, please give me face and detain this person. I'll be extremely grateful if you hand him over to me to take back to the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. This. Heaven Immortal White Sea had a conflicted expression as he chuckled dryly and glanced at the three people beside him. Yang Ruoxu and the other two did not react, as though they had not heard Prince Yuan Zhua. Earlier on, the four of them were fighting to recruit that person into the sect. Now they had to hand over this person just because of a single sentence from Prince Yuan Zhua. How was that different from slapping themselves on the face? In other words, so what if Su Zimo was a wanted sinner of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom? As long as his talent and potential were strong enough, the four immortal sects would dare to take him in. This time round, even Heaven Immortal White Sea did not say anything. The crowd quietened down once more and Prince Yuan's expression turned ugly. Although he had already lowered his status and said such words in front of everyone, Heaven Immortal White Sea and the other three were still unmoved. The discussions in the crowd below were noisy and even Prince Yuan's found them jarring. Finally, Lone Star could not hold it in any longer and harumphed coldly, questioning loudly, "Fellow Taoists, Su Zimo is a sinner of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Do you guys want to offend the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom just because of a grade 6 Earth Immortal?" Foo-foo. Heaven Immortal Green Peak sneered with a mocking expression. "Commander Lone Star, you sure are impressive. Why? Just because you're an execution guard of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, you wish to interfere with our four immortal sects? You!" Lone Star was speechless and his face turned green. Humph. Heaven Abyss harumphed coldly. "This is Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, not your Great Gene Immortal Kingdom." Heaven Abyss's voice surged like a tsunami and reverberated through the valley, rumbling with a powerful might and will. Not only did Lone Star's question fail to do anything, it even incurred the strong resistance of Heaven Immortal Green Peak and the others. It was not Lone Star's fault as well. The execution guards were used to being domineering and arrogant in the territory of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Because Lone Star did not rein it in after leaving the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, he was snubbed. No matter how strong the three immortal kingdoms were or how large their territory was, they could not control the four immortal sects. Prince Yuan's knew that he could not be tough if he wanted to resolve this matter. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Prince Yuan's revealed a smile once more and cupped his fists. "I was a little reckless. Fellow Taoists, please forgive me. Su Zimo is indeed a wanted criminal of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, and is even related to Feng Cantion. Fellow Taoists, please grant my wish. I'll definitely reward you immensely in the future." Feng Cantion. He was a taboo in the entire Divine Firmament Immortal domain, or rather, a sinner. Even the four immortal sects would not dare to back Feng Cantion. The reason why Prince Yuan's mentioned Feng Cantion at this moment was because he wanted Heaven Immortal White Sea and the other three to feel the pressure. After a long silence, Yang Ruoxu shook his head. "He's not Feng Cantion. Even if he is related to Feng Cantion, it's nothing much. Furthermore, this lad is taking part in the immortal sect selection in the valley. We can't break the rules and interfere in the process of the immortal sect selection. Everything has to wait till the immortal sect selection is over." When he heard that, Prince Yuan's frowned. If the immortal sect selection was over and Su Zimo became one of the last 100 people, he could join the four immortal sects at any moment. Wouldn't that be even more difficult? Yang Ruoxu was clearly stalling for time with his words. Although Prince Yuan's realized this, he did not dare to point out his accusation. He looked at Su Zimo in the valley and the hatred in his heart rose to its limits. He wished for nothing more than to charge into the valley and tear this person into pieces. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Prince Yuan's mind as he came up with a plan. His lips curled into a smile. "Since the immortal sect selection has already begun and you guys can't interfere, I naturally can't force the four of you either." At that point, Prince Yuan's paused for a moment before changing the topic. However, I heard that Su Zimo took part in the Immortal Sect selection midway. Yes. Yang Ruoxu nodded. Prince Yuanzhua smiled. Since Su Zimo can participate midway, doesn't that mean that as long as the others meet the conditions, they can enter this valley and take part in the Immortal Sect selection? As he said that, Prince Yuanzhua turned back and swept his gaze across the 100-odd Earth execution guards behind him. Chapter 2119. 2119 Show begins. 2119 Show begins. When they heard that, Yang Ruoxu and the other three frowned. Given their cultivation and intelligence, the four of them could naturally tell Prince Yuanzhua's intentions. Prince Yuanzhua intended to send the execution guards behind him to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. That way, the 100-odd Earth execution guards could enter the valley legitimately and hunt down Su Zimo. All four of them wanted to recruit Su Zimo into the sect. In the depths of their hearts, they naturally did not want Su Zimo to be surrounded by more than 100 Earth execution guards and die in the valley. They did not want him to fall into the hands of Prince Yuanzhua either. At that thought, the four of them fell silent. Prince Yuanzhua sneered internally and asked coldly, "Why? Fellow Taoists, are you guys showing favoritism? So, Su Zimo can take part in it midway but not others?" This time round, the four Heaven Immortals did not refute. Prince Yuanzhua was indeed in the right in this matter, and the four of them had nothing to say. That's right. Why can Su Zimo enter while others can't? That's not fair. The four immortal sects have to treat everyone equally and not be biased. In the crowd of Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, many cultivators were jeering, afraid that the matter would not be serious enough. Yang Ruoxu sighed internally. Others can naturally take part in the Immortal Sect selection as well. However, that lad did not bring a Coiling Dragon badge with him before he entered the valley. No problem. Prince Yuanzhua said immediately, "There's no need for the 112 Earth execution guards behind me to carry Coiling Dragon badges into the valley either." The Coiling Dragon badge had two purposes: to protect one's life and to fight for a chance to join the four immortal sections. However, the Earth execution guards only had a single goal for entering the valley: to hunt down Su Zimo. They were all top-tier Earth Immortal experts and were naturally not in any danger against a Grade 6 Earth Immortal, let alone having to protect their lives. Since things had come to this, the four Heaven Immortals could only agree given the circumstances. Otherwise, if word of this were to spread, it would mean that the Immortal Sect selection was unfair and it would affect the reputation of the four immortal sects. Heaven Immortal Green Peak asked, "How many people are you prepared to send into the valley, Prince?" "Of course it's all the Earth execution guards I brought today." Prince Yuanzhua said slowly with a sinister tone. A full 112 Earth execution guards into the valley. This time round, Prince Yuanzhua would not allow any accidents to happen. The four Heaven Immortals were silent. Those who could become Earth execution guards were all top Earth Immortal experts. Even a few of such Earth Immortals might be more than what Su Zimo could handle. If he made use of his movement technique, he might have a chance of survival. However, if all 112 Earth execution guards were sent in, it would be easy for them to form an encirclement given their chemistry. At that time, Su Zimo would not even have the chance to escape. Prince Yuanzhua was clearly bent on killing him. Suddenly, Heaven Abyss spoke, "If more than 100 Earth execution guards enter the valley now, it will definitely affect the final outcome of the Immortal Sect selection and disrupt the balance. This is inappropriate." Heaven Abyss's words were not without reason. The 100-odd execution guards obeyed Prince Yuanzhua's orders. If they entered the valley and joined forces, who could go against them? Fellow Taoists, don't worry. Apart from Su Zimo, these Earth execution guards won't attack anyone else after entering the valley. Prince Yuanzhua seemed to have expected that someone would raise this point. He smiled gently and said calmly, "As long as we capture Su Zimo, these people will be on standby on the spot and wait for the Immortal Sect selection to end. They won't do anything unnecessary. What fellow Taoist Heavenly Abyss is worried about will definitely not happen." This time round, the four Heaven Immortals could not think of any reason to reject. "Prince Yuanzhua, please." Heaven Immortal White Sea nodded slightly, indicating for Prince Yuanzhua to give the order. "Thank you, everyone." Prince Yuanzhua smiled and cupped his fists in thanks. Thereafter, he turned around and looked at the 100-odd Earth execution guards behind him. The smile on his face had already vanished. Earth execution guards, heed my orders. Prince Yuanzhua hollered softly. Yes. The 112 Earth execution guards echoed at the same time like thunder. However, no matter what happened outside, the cultivators participating in the Immortal Sect selection in the valley could not sense it at all. The water barrier was not only used as a mirror image, but also to isolate sound and vision. Prince Yuanzhua said in a deep voice, "Enter the valley and split into 10 teams with 11 people each. The remaining 2 people will form a team to search for Su Zimo. After seeing Su Zimo, don't hesitate. Send out a messenger badge and summon the others to gather for an encirclement at the location. This person's movement technique is extremely fast. We can't let him escape this time round." Understood. Many execution guards shouted. Prince Yuanzhua froze again. Remember, I want to capture him alive. The coiling dragon valley beneath was like a cage. In his eyes, Su Zimo was a bird in the cage that could not escape even if he had wings. He hated Su Zimo to the core and would definitely not let the latter die so easily. He wanted to torture Su Zimo day and night after capturing him alive. Furthermore, he had to interrogate Su Zimo about many things, such as the Jade Talisman, myriad transformations and the divine powers and secret skills of the Golden Wings. Fellow Taoist, may I trouble you to send the people I brought into the valley? After Prince Yuanzhua relayed the order, he said to Heaven Immortal White Sea and the others in a deep voice. Yang Ruoxu hesitated for a moment before waving his sleeves to send the 112 execution guards into the valley. However, he intentionally placed the execution guards in a landing spot furthest away from Su Zimo's location. Even if both parties encountered one another, it might take some time. Actually, Yang Ruoxu and the others knew that given the capabilities of the execution guards, it was way too easy for them to locate Su Zimo in this sealed valley. Such an arrangement would merely delay things slightly. The 112 execution guards entered the valley and split into 10 teams the moment they landed. Most of the teams were Grade 9 Earth Immortals and their leaders were commanders of the Earth Execution Guards. The remaining 2 Earth Execution Guards were both Grade 8 Earth Immortals. Li Xian, Zhang Mao, you 2 form a team. An Execution Guard commander said in a deep voice, "Don't be in a hurry to attack after meeting Su Zimo. Release the messenger order first." Understood. The 2 of them cupped their fists. Disperse, search for the target. The Execution Guard commander hollered softly. The 112 Earth Execution Guards split into different teams and dispersed rapidly in the directions before them, disappearing within the forest. When he saw that, Prince Yuanzhua smirked and clenched his fists with a faint smile. The show is about to begin. The crowd on Coiling Dragon Mountain Range was excited once more. The 4 Heaven Immortals exchanged glances in silence. No matter how much the 4 of them valued Su Zimo or admired his talent, they could not interfere in the Immortal Sect selection. That was a serious crime that no one could afford. In other words, Su Zimo could not avoid this calamity. Chapter 2120. 2120 Encountered. 2120 Encounter. Zixian Immortal Kingdom. Capital. Library. A woman in plain clothes and light makeup was holding an ancient book. She stopped in front of a row of tall bookshelves and read intently, flipping a page gently from time to time. Sunlight shone through the window and spilled onto the woman's fair neck, shimmering. She had a flawless side profile and a slender figure. Dressed in a light green dress, she exuded a hint of mystery and elegance in her calmness. Just by standing there, she was stirringly beautiful. Right then, soft footsteps sounded from the side, breaking the peace. Before long, a young girl appeared, panting. She looked at the woman in plain clothes in front of the bookshelves and hesitated, as though she was afraid of disturbing her. "What is it?" The plain-robed woman asked indifferently without shifting her gaze away from the book in her hands. The girl said, "Princess, Su Zimo has appeared." Oh! When the plain-robed woman heard that name, her expression changed as she glanced sideways and asked, "Where is he?" The girl said, "All these years, you've asked us to pay attention to news of Su Zimo. I just received a message that Su Zimo has appeared in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range and is taking part in the Immortal Sect selection." The Immortal Sect selection? This person is smart to choose the 4 immortal sects as his backing. The plain-robed woman murmured and smiled, asking, "What's his cultivation realm now?" "I heard that he's a grade 6 Earth Immortal. Furthermore, he entered the valley more than 10 days ago when the selection was about to end," the girl replied. "Grade 6 Earth Immortal. He sure cultivates fast." The plain-robed woman was slightly surprised. "Fast? He's still far inferior to our young prince." The girl pouted her lips in disdain. "I heard that the young prince even views this person as an opponent. In my opinion, he's not even worthy of being a servant for the young prince." The plain-robed woman shook her head with a smile and did not refute. She merely said to herself, "Grade 6 Earth Immortal. Given his capabilities, it shouldn't be difficult for him to join the 4 immortal sections." "That's not for sure," the girl gloated. "Su Zimo might not even be able to leave Coiling Dragon Valley alive, let alone join the 4 immortal sections." The plain-robed woman could tell that the girl was implying something. Her beautiful eyes shifted as she looked at the girl inquiringly. The girl said, "I just received news that Su Zimo used a method similar to myriad transformations to disguise himself and hid from the entire world to enter the valley to take part in the selection. No one recognized him at all. However, for some reason, more than 10 days later, Prince Yuan Zhua of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom suddenly appeared and exposed his identity, asking the 4 immortal sects for him." When she heard that, the plain-robed woman frowned slightly in deep thought. The girl did not notice the change in the plain-robed woman's expression and continued, "Because the immortal sect selection is in progress, the 4 immortal sects did not give him over. Prince Yuan Zhua then had the 112 Earth execution guards he brought with him sent into the valley so that they could hunt down Su Zimo." At that point, the girl giggled. "Princess, tell me, how is Su Zimo going to survive?" The plain-robed woman frowned and asked, "The 4 immortal sects allowed more than 100 execution guards to enter the valley to kill. They had no way of refusing. These people entered under the guise of taking part in the immortal sect selection. Since Su Zimo could take part in it, these execution guards naturally could as well." The girl said, "Furthermore, the immortal sect selection has no life and death restrictions to begin with and cultivators are allowed to fight to the death." "Where's Yun Ting?" Suddenly, the plain-robed woman asked. "The young prince is still in seclusion," the girl said. The plain-robed woman placed the book in her hands back on the bookshelf and walked out. "There's no need to call him. Prepare yourself and follow me to Coiling Dragon Mountain Range." "Ha!" The girl was stunned for a moment and asked in disbelief, "Princess, you haven't left the library for many years. Are you going to go out today because of a grade 6 Earth Immortal?" "This grade 6 Earth Immortal is unusual," the plain-robed woman said. The girl frowned and said hesitantly, But even if we rush over as soon as possible, it'll take close to 10 days. At that time, Su Zimo will probably be killed by the execution guards." "Kill him?" The plain-robed woman shook her head gently. "That person won't die so easily. I have a feeling that something else might happen during this immortal sect selection." As she said that, the plain-robed woman had already left the library. The girl followed closely behind. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. It had already been 10 days since the execution guards entered the valley, and there were only 5 days left until the end of the immortal sect selection. During this period of time, the execution guards had not encountered Su Zimo head-on. Of course, it was because of Yang Ruoxu's arrangement to place the execution guards furthest away from Su Zimo. However, everyone knew that as time passed, an inevitable collision would happen. Prince Yuanzhua was in no hurry. Everything was under his control. The 100-odd execution guards formed 10 teams and advanced to search bit by bit. They did not miss any corners and would even gather information from the other cultivators in the valley. When the cultivators in the valley saw the groups of 10 execution guards, they naturally did not dare to challenge casually and would tell the truth about Su Zimo. "Why are there suddenly so many execution guards?" "I saw it too." Those people even asked around for the location of a person, the young man who escaped extremely quickly and looked like he had yet to recover from a serious illness. "Let's go. Since there's no hope of entering the top 100, let's follow and take a look." Many cultivators were curious when they saw that the execution guards were not hostile towards them and followed behind, wanting to watch the show. Through the water barrier, Millions of cultivators watching could clearly see that the 100-odd execution guards were advancing and getting closer to Su Zimo. The locations of 2 execution guards were almost identical to Su Zimo, and they would meet soon. These 2 execution guards were the 2 outliers, Li Xian and Zhang Mao. The 2 of them were not weak and were both grade 8 Earth Immortals. Su Zimo is truly stupid. He even came to take part in the Immortal Sect selection. He practically dug his own grave. In the valley, Li Xian chuckled. Right now, he's trapped in all directions in this valley. There's nowhere for him to escape. That's right, whoever among us meets Su Zimo will be the lucky one. This will be a great merit, Zhang Mao said. Li Xian pouted. In my opinion, it's unnecessary to send any messenger order. Anyone who sees this person can just suppress him directly. What can a grade 6 Earth Immortal do? Zhang Mao shook his head. Let's follow His Highness's instructions. Don't make decisions on your own. As the 2 of them conversed, a figure sped over from afar. He was skinny and his face was withered, looking extremely weak. It was the appearance that Su Zimo had conjured. Zhang Mao and Li Xian's gazes intensified. Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and the others frowned slightly and their hearts skipped a beat. To the 4 of them, this was a huge test for Su Zimo. That was because all the execution guards knew their motive. However, Su Zimo, who was in the valley, was still kept in the dark. If Su Zimo were to turn and flee, he might be able to buy some time. If he were to fight the 2 execution guards and fall into a bitter battle, he would definitely die. Chapter 21-21 21-21 Decisive to Kill 21-21 Decisive to Kill. In the valley, Su Zimo was searching for a target in the vicinity when 2 people suddenly appeared in his line of sight. They wore black gold feather armors and had sabers hanging on their waists. Su Zimo paused in his tracks and narrowed his eyes. Execution guards. Any Earth Immortal could take part in the Immortal Sect selection. The execution guards were naturally in that category as well. However, when the 2 execution guards saw him, they stopped in their tracks as well. Their expressions were strange and their eyes lit up. It was clear that they had discovered something. That reaction was very different from the reaction of others when they saw a grade 6 Earth Immortal. In fact, the 2 execution guards did not even release their spirit consciousnesses to check his cultivation before they stopped in their tracks and locked onto him eagerly. They know me. Based on the reactions of the 2 execution guards, Su Zimo made a judgment instantly, and a thought flashed through his mind. My identity has been exposed. That speculation was way too terrifying and shocking. However, at that moment, Su Zimo no longer had time to think. The execution guard on the left slapped his storage bag and took out a messenger talisman. At that moment, it was already too late to activate his movement technique to get close given the distance between them. In a flash, Su Zimo vanished from the spot. True Dragon 9 flashes. Zhang Mao stared at Su Zimo fixedly. He had just taken out his messenger talisman when he froze for a moment. Where was the other party? Su Zimo had suddenly vanished from his line of sight. Just as Zhang Mao was in a daze, Su Zimo reappeared with a cold expression. He was less than 100 feet away from the 2 of them. Suddenly, Su Zimo vanished once more. He was gone again. What was that? Teleportation. Zhang Mao's eyes widened and his pupils constricted. On the other side, Li Xian could not react either. Right then, Li Xian seemed to have sensed something and suddenly turned around. He looked behind Zhang Mao and his expression changed, as though he had seen the most terrifying thing in the world. At the same time, Zhang Mao felt a chill run down his spine and his scalp prickled. An unprecedented aura of death enveloped down. Bang! A fair palm slapped the top of his head. The tremendous power penetrated his skull and shattered his essence spirit. Zhang Mao's eyes dimmed. Before he could tear the messenger talisman in his hands, his body went limp and he fell to the ground. Su Zimo released the True Dragon 9 flashes consecutively. While Zhang Mao was in a daze, Su Zimo killed him with a single palm strike without giving him any chance to react. You! Suppressing the shock in his heart, Li Xian was enraged and withdrew his execution saber with a clang. His blood chi surged as he hollered. Initially he wanted to say, "How dare you?" However, he merely said a single word when he saw Su Zimo turn around and lunge towards him without stopping after killing Zhang Mao. Die as well. Exhaling, Su Zimo extended his palm and conjured the Great Chaos Essence palm, suppressing Li Xian's face fiercely. The aura released by the Great Chaos Essence palm was extremely tragic. The power of distortion and suppression caused the surrounding air to explode in a shuddering manner. Before Li Xian could finish his sentence, he was blocked by that tragic aura. Li Xian was alarmed and circulated his blood qi to its limits. He raised the execution saber with both hands and slashed towards Su Zimo's Great Chaos Essence palm. Su Zimo had no intention of stopping. "You must have a death wish." Li Xian sneered internally. The execution saber in his hands was unusually sharp and was a perfect grade earth immortal dermic treasure. It was not something that a body of flesh and blood could defend against. As an execution guard of the great Gene Immortal Kingdom, his weapon was naturally not bad. Clang! The sound of metal clashing echoed when the execution saber struck the Great Chaos Essence palm. It was extremely ear-piercing. Impossible! Li Xian was shocked. Before he could react, he felt a mighty and violent power of distortion explode instantly. His hands could not hold on to the execution saber at all, and it flew out of his hands. Given the current strength of the Green Lotus True Body, he could even take on a connate Earth-grade dermic treasure head-on. The execution saber could not injure him at all. Su Zimo snatched the execution saber and threw it in reverse. The saber pierced through the black gold feather armor and Li Xian. His heart exploded and his blood qi deteriorated instantly. In the hands of different people, the lethality of the same execution saber was worlds apart. Su Zimo's slash not only pierced Li Xian's chest, but also shattered the black gold feather armor on his body. The violent saber qi even sliced Li Xian's organs into pieces. His body was completely crippled. At that moment of life and death, Li Xian's reaction was extremely fast and he was prepared to escape with his essence spirit. However, Su Zimo's reaction was even faster. As the saber pierced Li Xian's chest, his palm descended, grabbing Li Xian's face. Essence qi surged and instantly formed a prison. Li Xian's essence spirit could not escape at all and could only stay in his consciousness obediently. Su Zimo's expression was cold and his gaze was sinister as he glared at Li Xian in front of him. As long as he exerted strength in his palm, he could kill the latter. He. Knowing that he would not be able to escape death, Li Xian looked at Su Zimo in front of him and laughed while coughing blood. "Su Zimo, even if you kill me, you won't be able to escape. His Highness has already brought people over. Just wait for death." Poof! At that point, Su Zimo no longer had any doubts. Exerting strength in his palm, he crushed Li Xian's head and destroyed his essence spirit. Su Zimo's expression was dark. As he had expected, his identity had been exposed. The worst situation was that Prince Yuanzhua had brought people over. The only person who knew where he went was Astral Rain, the sect master of Astral Sect. His first reaction was that Astral Rain had snitched. However, Su Zimo quickly denied that speculation. If Astral Rain wanted to deal with him, there was no need for him to do anything unnecessary. He could have suppressed Su Zimo back then and handed him over to Prince Yuanzhua. Furthermore, although Astral Rain knew that he was here for the Immortal Sect selection, he did not know that Su Zimo had transformed into his current state. However, the two execution guards could clearly recognize him. How could this be? Just as Su Zimo was frowning in deep thought, coiling Dragon Mountain Range fell into a strange tranquility. Everyone's eyes widened in shock as they looked at the figure in the valley in disbelief. Even Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and the other two were shocked. Su Zimo's reaction had exceeded everyone's expectations. He did not escape nor was he embroiled in a bitter battle with the two execution guards. In just 2 or 3 rounds, 2 level 8 Earth Essence Realm execution guards were killed by Su Zimo on the spot without any chance to resist. His movement technique of flashing twice in succession was impressive. However, what was even more shocking was Su Zimo's calmness and instantaneous judgment. Su Zimo was in the valley and did not know what was happening outside. However, the moment he saw the 2 execution guards, he realized that something was amiss and attacked directly with a decisive killing intent. Even Heaven Abyss, Yang Ruoxu and the other two Heaven Immortals were shocked. Prior to this, Heaven Abyss had even commented that this lad was a little soft-hearted. This exchange of blows allowed everyone to witness how terrifying this person in the valley was. However, no one realized that the terror they saw was merely the tip of the iceberg for Su Zimo. Su Zimo's true fangs and claws had yet to be revealed. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.